Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And gang, we are going to be discussing the Venezuelan boat strikes. A couple weeks ago now, Washington Post put out a report claiming that a kill order was given to the survivors of an initial strike on a alleged drug boat. Since then, a lot of information has come out about the issue, and there's been investigations opened in the Senate and in Congress. Just yesterday, the U.S. interdicted a Venezuelan oil tanker. The questions for tonight's show are these. Are the boat strikes against alleged Venezuelan drug boats legal? Did Hegseth or those under his command commit a war crime in his handling of the second strike on September 2nd? Should we even be using military force against these people at all, regardless of the legality of it? We got some great guests today. One more is on her way. Mooncake will be with us shortly. But I want to give the mic to each of these individuals first to hear their opening thoughts, and then we'll get into it. Let's give the mic first to Mr. Ace. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. My real name's Tarek. I'm a student studying international relations and political science at St. Cloud State. I'm also a member of our speech and debate team. I compete on the state level and at the national circuit for college speech and debate. I'm just here because I love it. I don't really have a social media following, but you should follow the St. Cloud State speech and debate team. We have a TikTok. It's a pretty great TikTok. With that, my initial statement I want to say is that I do think there has to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that's just completely unlawful and ruthless, there has to be consequences for it. That's why the military won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do. And that's not my quote, that's Pete Hegseth speaking at an event in 2016, said those exact words. So ultimately what we see is, by definition, those strikes were a war crime, and we have no reason being in Venezuela. We should put America first, and we should focus on American issues.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, we have the frog himself, Doobie. Go ahead.
So my general position, so I don't support everything Trump does. I think most of you in the audience probably know me well enough to know that I hate Trump, and I hope he gets cancer or something. And if he died, I'd laugh about it. However, I think in this case, it's probably a good thing to target drug smugglers. Whether or not they're on our shores yet, I think it's totally fine to use military force against these people and to treat them as enemies. Because I think they are enemies of the state, of the people. And I don't think we need to wait for them to get here and spread their poison.
Okay, we'll get into it as we go. Next up, first time on my channel, Mr. Ehonda. I hope I'm saying that right. Go ahead.
You are. You're good. Hey, real quick, I do a show called The Gay Frog Chat. It's just funny that the King Frog over there, because I call myself the King Toad. So there's that. But yeah, my name's Ehonda 420, 42,000. Actually, I changed my my name recently. I have been doing about 5 or 6 years of live streams about conspiracy theories and current events and you know, all kinds of different stuff, from Second Amendment to First Amendment to everything. When it comes to the boat strikes, I'll just make it short and sweet. Terrorists don't get protections of foreign armed forces. Like you're not a foreign armed force if you're a terrorist organization. So therefore, there are no protections that are applicable. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. With that, we'll open up the floor to debate. I guess the first question I would have is, do we think that first of all, does everyone agree with Ehonda here that they don't get protections under the Geneva Convention or under U.S. law?
I'd ask where it says that, because everything we do on the international stage has to have some basis in activities that we've done before or in foundations that we have as an international community. And you just saying they don't get protections doesn't mean much. Like, what makes it so they're so exclusive that they don't get protections normally provided to any other human?
Well, are they a military armed force that we are in conflict with? The answer is no. They are a organization that's bringing in a deadly drug into our country that's killing 100,000 people per year.
So
That's
the American government could ignore the Geneva Convention if they were targeting American citizens who weren't part of an armed force. It just doesn't
not
apply
American
anymore.
citizens. No, not American citizens, because American citizens have different protections than non-American
Yeah.
citizens.
So once again, just because they're not part of an armed force, the Geneva Convention and U.S. law doesn't say anything about that. It doesn't say anything about how you have to be part of an armed force or a recognized armed force to be considered under these protections. These protections are considered for a person of any kind, a human. We're all people. There's not really you know what I mean? If right now China decided to declare, we don't actually consider the American military an armed force, we consider them a terrorist organization, we're just going to ignore the Geneva Convention whenever we're dealing with the American military, we would all laugh at that. And I think the same thing would have to be said about just saying,
Would we though?
Well, that's
Isn't
a
that
ridiculous
essentially what
point,
Israel's done and
I think
has
it
been,
would
and
be
we've all been in
ridiculous.
favor with the Houthis and all these other groups that they've been bombing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the international community has demonstrated a lot of tolerance for that sort of thing. So I don't know why you're saying we'd laugh at this.
Bombing terrorists is different than saying that they have no protections in the Geneva Convention. One thing we have to make clear is that the Geneva Convention doesn't make any distinction, neither does the ICRC, neither does the US Code 2441. None of these things make a distinction between an armed force or a person. They're talking about people. The act of a person who intentionally kills, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't say anything about armed forces. So once again, you guys can say that, but what I'm asking for is somewhere where it has that in the foundation of the documents that we use to rule this country and the world when we talk about the international community.
I think you're overstating how much we care about international law, first off. And so I agree that we probably should, but the reality is it's tossed out the window whenever it's convenient. So
okay,
I think it's fine to toss it out the window in this case if it's not convenient.
Before we go further, hold on, just before we go further, I want to give Mooncake a chance to introduce herself and give her opening thoughts on this as well to kind of get her into the discussion. Go ahead, Mooncake. You gotta give her a second, gang. Women, am I right? She'll figure it out. Okay, once you're just check the Discord to make sure you're using the right mic. While she does that, we're gonna give it to you, and you can continue the discussion.
So one thing, the claim that was originally made is that they don't have these protections. Whether or not the United States actively engages in these protections is a different conversation. But the claim that was made was that they don't have these protections. I'm saying they do have these protections. Whether or not they're ignored or not, the solvency of these protections is not what we're debating. The original claim was that they don't have these protections.
Those protections specifically are for military combatants of foreign governments. If you are part of a terrorist organization, then you are not.
I'd like you to show me that. Because I have the Geneva Convention Article 12 here. I have the Additional Protocol of 1977. I have the ICRC Customary Rule 47, Rule 110, the US Code 2441. None of them say anything like that. So you can say that, but I'm asking you for the support for that.
All right, give me a moment.
Do you have push to talk on, Mooncake?
You might just need to change your mic settings in Discord.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
So I think the idea that they don't have protections, and once again, to talk about the thing that Doobie brought up, Doobie, I think we agree that there is, I'm not saying military force against cartels is completely off the table. What I'm saying is that the military force that we've been using has not been effective. I don't think that the double strike was a legal action we can take. We've seen better alternatives. One of the alternatives I want to bring up that I really, really like is HITRON, which is the Coast Guard Helicopter Interdiction Tactical Squadron, which in 2016 stopped 83 vessels. In one deployment, one of these HITRON helicopters stopped 13 go-fast boats. And they do this by flying near the go-fast boats, and they take out the engines. This is something that we've been doing for years. We have the training. It's in our manuals. Once again, we don't have to blow these boats up. And if anything, if our goal is to stop these drugs from funneling into the country, we shouldn't be targeting Venezuelan boats, and we shouldn't be targeting boats in a way that destroys any evidence or any information we could get to be able to tackle the problem at its root. So once again, I don't disagree that we need to stop drugs flowing into the country. I don't think that by committing war crimes on boats that are unconnected does anything to do that. It's a
So what happens with these boats
Okay,
after
so-
they disable the engines?
What do you after they disable the engines?
Yeah.
I know one of the HITRON cases that I was thinking about, the Mexican Navy comes, they pick up the individuals. The United States Navy does the same thing. Essentially, they disable the
That's
boat. They're
on.
miles out.
Oh, hold on. We hear.
Wait.
Yeah, whatever you did, it's working.
Did it work?
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
wait.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, nice. Sorry.
All good.
It's okay.
Uh,
So
Continue discussion. Then once that dies down, we'll hop in whenever. Mooncake. Okay.
With those 83 vessels in 2016, we got 81 tons of cocaine valued at $2.2 billion. So what we can do is actually take those drugs. We can see where they're coming from. We can question these individuals, and we can ensure that innocent people don't die. Because I think our goal as Americans is to be the moral standard. And the moral standard is that we don't want innocent people to die. And we can do so by simply disabling these boats, capturing the people on board, and then from there, we can see if they're innocent or not.
Okay, so according
no,
to
I think
the
everything you just said is ridiculous. to be
there's
honest with you.
additional protocols written
I
in
can go after it.
1977 which expand and clarifies who lawful combatants are. Basically, you have to be being commanded by a person responsible for subordinates, chain of command. You have to have fixed, distinctive sign recognizable as distinct, a uniform or clear emblem. You have to carry arms openly, especially during military engagements and before attacks, and conducting operations in accordance with laws and customs of war. So if you're not doing all four of these things,
where does it
you
say
are
this?
not.
Yeah,
This
I'd like
is
to ask.
the Geneva Convention, 1977. Excuse me. Hold on, I just had it.
If you can link it in the group chat too,
Yeah.
that would be helpful.
Sure, give me a sec there. I got you. But yeah, I mean, basically, it's saying that because of those reasons, and I'll link it in a second, you're not a legal combatant, and you do not get the legal protections of legal combatants when it comes to.
I feel as if terrorist organizations.
It's not a war crime to kill terrorists. It's not.
Okay, but the issue is that they are a person, and not only that, but that applies when they are not forced to combat. Because
terrorists,
the same. So article.
Hold on. Both of you stop, please. You're talking over each other. No, stop, please. Ehonda, please.
Do you know how many people died during the Vietnam?
Just give me a second. You're all hold on, both of you. You're all gonna get a chance, I promise. But you can't keep talking over each other. Ehonda, finish your point. And then we're going to give it to Ace here. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, this isn't like an argument so much as it is rhetoric. But 10 years of Vietnam War killed roughly 60,000 American citizens and led to such protests in our country that ended the war because of the outrage of how many people died. 100,000 people every single year die from fentanyl in this country. We're under an assault of something that we've never been under before, and them declaring people terrorists and bombing them is perfectly okay with me, and I believe it's legal too.
Can I respond? As I stated, bombing them is not the issue. The war crime happened as soon as they were forced to combat, which means that they are no longer combatants. So they were combatants at a certain point. You can bomb them. I'm not saying you can't bomb terrorist organizations. However, once somebody becomes shipwrecked, which I have multiple definitions for shipwrecked, that's the 1977 protocol that you're talking about, specifically says, shall not be made the object of an attack. So ultimately, I'm not saying we can't bomb terrorists. That was never my claim. Your claim was that they're not offered protections. I'm saying once they're shipwrecked, they are offered those protections
shipwrecked.
as it's laid out in. They were shipwrecked. Do you want the definitions? Merriam-Webster, the destruction or loss of a ship. West Point, shipwrecked from any cause, including among others persons who find themselves involuntary in the water on board burning ships. Persons fully abandoned shipwreck act of 1987. This is the U.S. law that we follow. The term shipwreck means vessel or wreck. It's cargo and other contents. There's nothing about this not being shipwrecked. Every definition I can give you talks about it being shipwrecked. The 1977 protocol talks about being shipwrecked. And we're talking about war on drugs, killing individuals here. I'd like to say something. Each Hellfire missile is $150,000. I'd like to point out that the U.S. Army recently awarded Lockheed Martin $439 million for Hellfire missiles. That, I did the math, is 2,926.67 missiles. And an outpatient program can range from $300,000 to $600,000. So that's 2 to 4 missiles per program. A sober living home, $200,000 to $700,000. That's 1.3 to 4.6 missiles. Ultimately, if we spent that same money on that contract, we'd be able to have, right here, 731.67 outpatient programs, 146.33 per state, instead of spending them on Hellfire missiles.
Hold on, you're all over the place right now. So, first off, so what you're talking about these outpatient programs, you're treating the symptom but not the cause, right? What we're talking about is treating the cause, right? And for us, the cause is drugs coming to the country, right? And then those drugs flooding into our communities and poisoning our people. So I agree, we probably do need more outpatient programs. I agree with that, 100%. However, that's useless if you don't stop the flow of the drugs. So given that these people understand that they are not allowed to come to this country with these fucking drugs, through our democracy, through our sovereignty, we said, hey, we don't want these drugs on our shores. They're choosing to violate our sovereignty to bring these drugs here anyway. They understand that they're putting themselves in a very dangerous situation because we are blowing up ships in this part of the ocean that are coming here with drugs. They choose to do it anyway. In some sense, it's on them, right? They've chosen to violate our sovereignty, to try to bring these drugs here or some other country for profit. By the way, to poison our people for profit. It's totally reasonable for me, given that they've taken that risk upon themselves to blow them up. Now, I agree that if you bomb them, you don't do a good enough job, and they're floating out there in the ocean. I think it's a little bit cruel to leave them out there. To be honest with you, but I wouldn't want to bring them here. I'd actually leave them out there for the fucking sharks. However, I think that this, going back to what you said before, right, about this HITRON program and about how actors can go in and interrogate these people and yada yada. What you're actually laying out there is, we bring them onto the shore, we put them in a jail somewhere, we spend a fuck ton of money prosecuting these people, getting them into prison, and we give them free food and free bed for God knows how long, while they're being trained to be better drug smugglers. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is get rid of these fucking people to scare them enough that they don't try to come over here and poison our people.
Okay, I want to get Mooncake a chance to get in on this.
Sorry about my mic before, and I'm probably going to go over some things you guys already said since I wasn't here earlier, so I do apologize for that. But I do want to just have my stance. So initially, when I was considering this topic, I think it's complicated in the way that I understand the want of maybe the United States to do something about illegal drugs coming into their country, the same issue we have with China with fentanyl coming into Canada. So I can understand it from that point of view. My problem turns into when you are unable to 100% verify that they are drug boats, because they aren't able to do that, at least for every single vessel. Not only with that, closing down the Venezuelan airspace, I think you're taking action against the entire government when we know it's the cartels. So for my problem, it's how can we take action against this government entity when it's the cartels doing this? Because then now, I mean, I guess in my opinion, it's like a declaration of war. This isn't something that America would do to China, and I think that speaks to what's happening. They know they can bully Venezuela, and they're still having issues with drugs coming from places like China. So I think that's something to consider, and it is violating human rights laws. We can discuss it all day, but they are, right? People have a right to life. So for example, I think they killed those last 2 people, I forget which vessel it was. When they did the second airstrike, you're not supposed to do that. They have a right, at that point, I think it's basically like they're surrendering or they don't have the ability to actually do anything. So you're actually supposed to allow them to be arrested or to live. And America didn't really give them that option. So I think these are things we have to consider.
Respond to that, Ehonda, then I see you, Ace, and we'll get you in after that.
So as far as them, if and it's a big if because it's still not confirmed as far as I'm concerned, because there hasn't been the video showing them floating in the water, right? And as far as I'm concerned, also it's all been whistleblowers anonymously saying all of these things. There's not been any confirmation as far as I can tell. So there's that part. But can someone surrender to a drone or to a bomb or to a like an A-10 Warthog flying over? The answer is no. So like an A-10 Warthog flying overhead strafes a line of cannon, right? And as he's coming in to strafe the line of cannon, all of the dudes on the cannons are like, "Oh crap," and put up white flags saying that they surrender. Does that count? Can he not
Yeah,
shoot them
but
because they put the white flags up?
at that point they're already like there's nothing that they can do, so they aren't causing a threat to life. Like they're not causing a threat to American soldiers or American citizens. Like they're already in a position where they've been extremely badly damaged. So at that point, that is technically like a surrender. They can't do
No,
anything,
but the
which is
answer is
why we
no.
give them
The answer is they cannot.
that's a part of international law though. We can't do that.
No,
We
it's
can't just
not.
kill them. No, it
You
is. You
show
can
me
look
where
this
it
up.
says in international law that you can
I
surrender
forget
to an airplane.
the I forget.
Show me how you surrender.
Could
Like, what
I
is it
hop
that
in?
makes
So
a
we've
surrender
done
complete?
it. We've done it
I will
before
find
with
it for you.
with the Coast Guard Helicopter Interdiction Tactical Squadron. We have individuals who, since 2016, have already been doing this. People have been surrendering to helicopters. We don't need to be using Hellfire
We have a
missiles.
helicopter
We
there?
have
Is
the
there a
solvency.
helicopter there waiting
Yeah,
to
once
take
again,
your surrender?
I'm saying we shouldn't use Hellfire missiles. We should use the systems that we already have in place that have been working to prevent these drug boats from getting anywhere. And not only that, but I'd like to go back to this idea that Venezuela is shipping us a bunch of drugs. 76% of overdose deaths is due to fentanyl, and the biggest producer of this is China. We should be talking about
I agree
bombing
that we should be
China.
doing
If
this
you
to China
guys
too.
want
No, I agree. We should be doing that.
to
to
bomb
too.
China.
Yeah,
And
hold on. If there are drug smuggling boats coming from China, yes, we should bomb
you
them.
think war with
That's like-
China would result in less deaths?
if this results in war, then yeah, it's worth it. Because long
That is
term,
a
given that
declaration
again,
of war.
hold on, given that 100,000 people are dying a year to just fentanyl,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah,
the
long term, I think it'd
Yeah.
result in fewer deaths. Yes.
And the thing is, you talking about the root cause. The root cause here is addiction. And should we talk about attacking people that try to bring these into our borders? Sure. But by your same logic, we should be bombing American drug dealers. We should be double tapping
No,
American
you don't need to
drug
bomb
dealers in
them. They're in the
American
United States,
cities.
but you can't execute them. I'd be okay with putting them in prison and executing them for sure.
Okay.
Um,
We do have
Yeah, why not?
Can I just reference the Article 3? It's part of the Geneva Convention that says you cannot use violence against a person who has been incapacitated, so wounded, anything like that. Once they were in the water, we cannot touch them. You're supposed to give them the ability to be arrested or something of that nature. We're not supposed to just kill them. And I think that's where America's going too far. Like I said, I understand wanting to stop drugs coming in from your country, but he's right. A lot of these drugs come from places like China. Fentanyl is a huge issue. Same in Canada. If you were trying to go after the real drug smugglers, you'd be going after China. But there's a reason why America won't touch that. And let's be honest, because they know it's a declaration of war, which is them closing the airspace over Venezuela is extremely inappropriate. And they know they couldn't do that to a larger country. They have to bully the
So
small
what?
ones.
Yeah, let's if we have an issue with the small one, let's bully the fuck out of the
But
small
what
one.
do the
again.
small ones do?
Because it's
we don't
easier
even-
than
Oh, hold on,
it's easier
one
than
at a time,
bullying
let
the
Doobie
big one, and
finish.
we can get to the
Just let
big
Doobie
one
finish.
afterwards.
Doobie finish. Yeah.
We don't even have an issue with Venezuela. The DEA releases the NDTA, which talks about which states are transit states in South America. Venezuela has never been listed on the NDTA. Most of the drugs that go out of Venezuela is cocaine going to Europe. It's not even coming to the United States.
So
once
it's fine
again,
for them
we're
to poison Europeans? Is that your position?
No, that's not my position. What I'm saying here is that your claim is that the drug crisis in America is being fueled by these boats that are coming from Venezuela. Therefore, we should
That
bomb
isn't
the
my
boats
claim.
in Venezuela. But I'm telling you, these boats in Venezuela, A, we don't have proof that they have drugs, and B, we need to ensure that these are actually targets that are going to hurt American citizens.
I'm
if
sure
we're
they're
gonna,
bringing
as
toys
American
over.
people.
No, okay, so I don't know what you have against Europeans, but to be clear about my position,
a lot.
to-
Well,
But,
let Doobie finish. Hold on, let Doobie finish. Once Doobie finishes, I have some super chats, and then we'll get back into the discussion.
okay, so again, I don't know what issue you have with Europeans, but to be clear, my position is that whether or not these drugs from Venezuela comes to the U.S. or to some other country or some other ally of ours, whether or not we have other nations that are doing this, that are smuggling drugs here, any of these nations, any of these people involved in this drug trafficking network should be treated as enemies. They should be killed, right? If we catch them doing it. Now, understand, if they're already in the U.S. and they're a drug dealer, it's inconvenient to bomb a drug dealer on the side of the street corner. So arrest them and execute them. I'd be okay with that. But my position is not limited to Venezuela. And I agree that if these people are not drug dealers or drug smugglers, we shouldn't kill them, right? But I'm going to have to trust the intelligence that the U.S. has when they're making the decision to bomb somebody out in the middle of the fucking ocean. Now, if you're saying
What I'm
some of
saying
that
is-
intelligence might be wrong, I agree. It's not always accurate, not always perfect. There are going to be innocent people that are potentially killed. I think that's worth the risk, and I think it's worth the fear effect that it has. And on all the other drug smugglers that might use that same water pathway to come here or to go somewhere else, they know that if they do this, there's a possibility they're going to get blown the fuck up and left in the middle of the ocean. I'm totally fine with that.
It's not an all or nothing. We can't. It's not just we have to bomb them. We have Hitron. We've been using it since 2016. We have methods to disable these boats. Check. Why is it not good enough? It's been working forever.
I explained it to you earlier. No, it hasn't.
But
Obviously, it hasn't because
yes,
hold
it
on.
has.
Obviously, it hasn't because there's so much drugs
$2
being smuggled out of this fucking
in
country
cocaine
and all over the
stopped
fucking
by
world.
Hitron?
That's
So
not
maybe we
okay.
should-
Hold on.
Instead of
Can you tell me? Can you
Hold
tell
on,
me?
David,
Just
one at
just tell me right
a
now.
time, one at a time.
So you said what? $2.7 billion stopped by Hitron.
Yeah.
How long was Hitron in effect?
That was in 2016. That was just in 2016. It was 81 tons of cocaine.
And how much cocaine was smuggled in that same area in 2016?
Yeah. Once again,
and I know they have
Hitron,
estimates.
What I'm saying, yeah, Doobie, what I'm saying here is we're spending $150,000 per Hellfire missile when instead we can fund programs like Hitron that work better. If we get more helicopters in the air, we can disable more boats, we can capture these individuals, and then we get rid of the risk of killing innocents. You and me agree we shouldn't be killing innocents, so we should take the safer method that is more cost effective.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Is your position that the
quick.
Hellfire missiles are more expensive than Hitron?
Because Hitron also
you need, not only do you
them.
need the helicopter, right?
Yeah.
You need the air crew, you need the intel, you need the fuel, you need the boarding teams, you need the coordination
you buy a helicopter
with the other
one time?
with the other government. No, hold on, you get the coordination with the other governments in the area to go out and pick up these people when they're out in the water, right? Then you got to worry about whether or not they're going to resist or fight back and kill somebody.
Yeah.
And then once you go through a whole fucking process of prosecuting these people in the courts and then interrogating them with all the shit, and then you put if you do manage to prosecute them, they end up in a jail cell soaking up tax money for fucking decades potentially. Like this is far more expensive.
$39 million on a single contract with Lockheed Martin for Hellfire missiles.
So what?
$439 million. You're telling me that's more expensive than helicopters with people who are trained to disable boats?
Oh, hold on. How much did Hitron cost?
Hitron is... I can find it.
While you find it, I'm going to read these, then we're going to give it to Ehonda. Okay, $5 from Testicle Johnson. To say fentanyl comes from Mexico and uses Chinese precursor, not Venezuela. Ehonda is dumb or dishonest. Thank you for the $5. $5 from Deej Nuts. To say destroying enemy boats doesn't make every soldier evacuating the boat orders to combat. That's never been a thing in any war. Thank you for the $5.
What did it say? I didn't hear what it said.
Destroying enemy boats doesn't make every soldier evacuating the boat orders to combat. That's never been a thing in any war. That's what he said.
There's a difference between evacuating and floating in a flaming wreckage.
Yep.
So there's a big difference there.
Yep. $5 from Testicle Johnson to say Trump pardoning the ex-president of Honduras shows Trump cares about drugs entering America. Tier 2 membership from Bruco. Thank you for the 6-month membership. Thanks, man. It says, explain how Trump pardoning the creator and operator of the biggest drug black market website, Silk Road, shows that Trump is tough on drugs. $5 from Deej Nuts. Mooncake. You have to be able to be captured to surrender. Being wounded isn't being incapacitated. You don't understand the laws you cite.
No, it is.
Okay.
It is. That is part of. Oh, that's so frustrating.
How can they
It is
double
part of being
tap people in
incapacitated.
Iraq and Afghanistan for the past 20 years and under different presidencies and different administrations?
This is going to blow your mind. The U.S. has committed war crimes before. So I don't know how else.
But that is
hold on.
under the Geneva
You
Convention.
can't just say they
Article 2,
committed war
you
crimes.
can
No
look
one's
it up.
even brought that up as a war crime before. And then
But
the other thing that I wanted to mention real quick while you guys were talking about stuff is the deterrent that this creates. Because, think about this. You are a Venezuelan drug boat runner, and it is your turn to take a load up to America. And they're like, hey, Mr. Honda, go take that boat up. You know what I'm going to say? Hell no, I'm not getting on that boat. There's not a chance in the world that I'm going to do that. I don't care how much you pay me. I don't care how much I'm going to make when I get there, because chances are I'm probably not going to get there. My life expectancy just dropped to days, if not minutes. That's the conversation they're having. That's an absolute deterrent. That is going to stop drugs from coming into this country. And that's undeniable. You can't say anything that
I can deny it because no, it is deniable because you didn't bring any evidence. The UNODC and a study in Myanmar specifically. Okay, that's great. I'm so happy the logic works out in your head. But real world studies show that in Myanmar, opium cultivation increased 17% during the war. The
Do people not
UNODC
care about getting killed? Do
points
people like
out that
not care about
yeah,
their lives and they're willing to just
let me
die?
finish. Let me finish. So what
I
happens
mean,
here
honestly,
is that
like you didn't
countries,
answer
when
that.
countries, I'm getting to it. Countries that go to war breed instability. When people are unstable, they're willing to join groups such as terrorist and drug smuggling groups, and therefore they have more people joining those organizations. They often join off of need, not off of want. So when you send Venezuela into war, when you send them into instability, every study from the UNODC, from the Myanmar study, shows that drug smuggling increases. So once again, your idea of deterrent makes sense maybe to you, but to somebody who already doesn't have a lot, who's living in that unstable government, is willing to make that risk. You sitting in your American bedroom, it makes a lot of sense to you. But to other individuals who are undereducated and are in those governments, it does make sense to join those groups.
Okay, let me finish these super chats and you can respond. $5 from Aliceness to say, why are we unable to identify where the drugs are allegedly entering the U.S.? Why can't we locate where they're coming from and target the source? $5 from Mr. Far from Jordan. If they are terrorists, why did we pull 2 terrorists out of the ocean and give them back to their country after attacking them on October 16th, 2025? And then finally, $10 from Alexander Rin to say, what kind of BS motive swap derailment bull is Doobie spewing? We have to have them because they're bringing drugs into America. No, it goes to Europe. What do you have against Europeans? Anyway,
I think it's a totally fair question.
$10.
Now, Alexander, if you think it's somehow less bad to poison communities in Europe, we just disagree. Okay, I'm not that kind of bigot.
The thing with Europe has a much lower drug rate because of the fact that they adopt things like those facilities that I talked about. Ultimately, Europe spends more money to deal with drug addiction. The root cause here is addiction. If you deal with the addiction, you run out of buyers, people don't buy drugs, no more smuggling drugs.
Or you just kill the people supplying the drugs.
There's 2 solutions. Okay, but why do we have to do that? Once again, the onus is
why
on you
shouldn't
to
we
say
do
why
that?
we should.
Why shouldn't we do that?
Because
Why should we focus on trying to make people...
Just real quick, I want to hear from Mooncake. Mooncake's been trying to get in.
I just wanted to say, it's not our place to step in even if drugs are going to Europe. Like, I would not expect Canada to step in as long as they're not near our water. No, of course not. I don't think that's our place. And not only that, I just wanted to reference again Article 3 of the Geneva Convention. If they are subdued, so if they are attacked, if they cannot have a immediate threat, you cannot just unlawfully kill people, and that still would be considered unlawful. Now, I know America isn't a part of every single international court, but they do recognize these things. But the Geneva Convention would apply there. I just wanted to say, some of these boat strikes are being done in Venezuelan waters. Cuba even admitted to this as well and said, yes, they are being done there. America, once again, that is a declaration of war. You can't just go into someone else's waters and start killing people. And I think that if we start to become okay with this, if we start to normalize this, you can't complain if China decides to blow up a boat in American waters. What will you do at that point? So this is what I'm trying to say, is that once you start to play with this fire, will you still have the same questions or concerns if China does it to America? That is I guess my big issue here, is that we're leading down a very controversial path if we continue with this and we allow boat strikes as they're happening.
Okay, so to be clear, this is like an old thing, right? So we already do. I think Venezuela actually has a program in which they target airplanes and they'll shoot down airplanes if they believe these airplanes are smuggling drugs. Not just Venezuela. A lot of countries have this program, right? So this is not like a totally brand new space. Nobody's ever stopped a vessel while it's transporting drugs. This absolutely happened before. I don't care, to be honest with you. I really don't. Now, secondly. This thing that you said about we don't really have a duty to stop drugs going to Europe is crazy to me. So I'm going to ask you a question. So if we knew that there was some Jewish supremacist, right, sailing his little boat into the UK somewhere to blow up a bunch of Muslims on the beach, right? Do you think it'd be wrong to shoot that guy on the way there? Should we wait for him to get there, set up the bomb, and then shoot him?
You should inform the government of that country that this boat is on their way. The same thing that America did when there was a terrorist plot for I forget the guy's name in Canada, that they informed the Canadian government so the Canadian government can handle it. They don't just go in and say, we're going to kill this guy. That's not how it works.
Of course that's how it works. We've done this before. No. Hold on. What do you mean?
Give an example.
Give an example.
Yeah.
Give an example.
Hold on. You're telling me that you don't believe that the United States or even our allies have not killed people that they suspect of terrorism all over the
Not
fucking
without
world.
informing
Hold on.
That's not what I said.
While these people,
Wait,
while
that's
these
not-
people
that
were,
wasn't- that
hold on.
wasn't she said.
Even while these people were at home sleeping, right? They will bomb them from another country without even informing that country's government. Happens all the fucking time. And it's totally defensible from the American perspective
an
because we're
example.
killing terrorists who might do a bad thing,
Can-
right?
can
So
you
I
give
don't
an
know why you're
example?
playing a
America
different
didn't,
standard here.
because no,
No,
My
it's so
standard is
common. Give an
Hold on.
example.
these
Okay.
people are poisoning communities. I think we have a duty to stop evil when we see it. And I think this is evil. And I think it's our duty to protect our allies, to protect the planet from these drugs
Okay.
and stop
Okay,
this
we got to get some order in this court. We got to get some order in this court. We're going to let Mooncake respond, and then Ehonda can go.
Users. That's 35,000 people in the United States who die every single
I don't know what
year
you're saying.
because they wanted to take a pill or they wanted to try cocaine, and there ended up being fentanyl inside of it. So
Yeah, I don't know.
you can
What-
set up all the
But
treatment
where's the
facilities you
fentanyl
want. It's
coming
not going to
from?
stop
So
those.
once again, the treatment facilities have been shown to work, and not only that, I'd like to give a little bit of a
So
thought
35%.
exercise here. What 35%? I didn't. You
35%
just started
of people
rambling.
who die from fentanyl overdoses in the United States every
Yeah.
single year, who previously weren't addicted and didn't. I mean, they're just trying cocaine for the first time or MDMA, and they got a bad fucking dealer.
Cocaine
You know
doesn't
that
usually-
happens all the time. It happens
Yeah.
all the time.
So
in
most-
fact, a lot of this
most people-
cocaine ends up being sliced with fentanyl anyway, right? So
Yeah.
because it makes it more addictive, it gives you a different kind of high. So a lot of this cocaine,
Yeah.
it does end up tainted with fentanyl,
So
and it does kill
the,
people.
the other solution there is if you're worried about people who are just trying drugs and they die from drugs, you can invest the same money into Narcan, which once again we don't need Hellfire missiles. We spent $400 million
Or
on
you
Hellfire
just stop the
missiles.
drugs.
It's not doing anything, but it's not stopping the drugs.
You're
because the drugs are
targeting the
coming from
symptoms.
Venezuela.
You're
So
targeting
it's
the
not
symptoms.
stopping, but it's not
You're targeting
stopping.
this. Okay, but hold on. But I've already expressed
I
this to you.
told you.
I'm not
Yeah.
talking about just.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about just Venezuela. I said my position is that these people should be bombed for wherever the fuck they're coming from, right? Because I think it's totally fine to treat these as enemy combatants coming into our country to poison our population, and they should be killed.
I'd like
I'd
to
like
point
to
out.
back up if we could real quick to the shipwreck thing. Because according to what I have here, legally shipwrecked refers to people in peril at sea due to their vessel or aircraft having
By who?
misfortune.
Legally by who?
Misfortune being the operative term.
Legally
right?
by who?
Well, hold on,
Who
let me
said
finish,
that?
dude. You can't just jump in the middle. Let me, I'm
But
sorry,
who
the
said that?
middle
Hold
of
on.
my sentence.
Yeah, just let
interrupted
him.
the
Let
beginning of yours,
Ehonda
but-
finish his point, and then we can get to it. Go ahead, Ehonda.
So us dropping a bomb on a boat is not misfortune. That was us identifying them
fortunate?
as a terrorist group who were bringing deadly drugs into our country, like it or not, and we dropped a bomb on them. That's not misfortune. That was them making themselves a target of the U.S. military, period.
Okay, just
said
to clear,
legally?
just
I
real
don't know-
quick,
I
just
don't
real
know
quick,
if
just
it's
real
legal,
quick,
right?
just real quick. Okay, fact check. The U.S. law, the Department of Defense released a manual. They define shipwreck differently, and so I'm not sure what you're referring to there, but it's not the U.S. law. U.S. law defines shipwreck as a ship that is floundered for any cause.
Which
That's
comes
it.
from the
Okay.
Shipwreck Act of 1987 is where the basis of that comes from. So you can say legally I say you're wrong. I can say anything I want. It doesn't mean anything unless you have the statistics back it up. And not only that, but once again, I pointed out how studies show that when you engage in war, it results in an increase to drug smuggling. So if your goal is to stop drug smuggling, then clearly war is not the method to do so because it has not been shown to be solvent whatsoever. Not only that, but when we look at people joining these types of organizations, when the United States engaged in the war on drugs, we saw a massive increase in the amount of people joining these types of cartels. The Center for International Policy, the military campaign from into 2008 saw cartels and gangs increase by 900% from 2006 to 2012. Forced disappearances went from 18 per year in 2004 to 3,011, 111
In the US or
in
Mexico?
2010. What?
In the U.S.
This
or
is
Mexico?
the U.S. This is the U.S. during the war on drugs. They spend a bunch of money to enforce drug regulation in Mexico.
Right,
They gave
and what you're talking
military aid,
about
they gave
is in
stuff.
Mexico, right?
Yeah.
These massive cartels springing up and spreading their influence and corrupting the government. Yeah, I agree. We didn't go hard enough. We should have treated the cartel like we treated Al Qaeda,
Yeah.
but actually kill them. Not like Al Qaeda where we end up like teaming up with them at some point,
Yeah,
but
I'm
actually
gonna
fucking
lay
kill them. Right. So I
Yeah.
think that we should treat them like we treated some Middle Eastern terrorist group and just wipe them all out. I think that was a correct decision. We didn't do that. We treated this with fucking kid gloves, and now we have a bigger problem. So I think it's time for us to stop treating this with kid gloves. It's time to treat it like the fucking crisis that it is, and to treat it like it's killing as many people as it is, and actually destroy these organizations.
So Americans still have drug addiction. You wipe out the cartels. What's stopping new people from forming new cartels and then getting those drugs?
This is why we need to have those outreach centers, exactly like you said. So I agree. We can do both things at the same time. What I'm talking, I'm not opposed to that, right? I agree that obviously we have an addiction issue. A lot of people destroying their lives with these addictions and other addictions. I agree. I want to fund that 100%. But I want to overfund it. But what I'm telling you is that doesn't matter if you don't stop the source, you don't stop the cause of the issue. And I think these cartels and these drug smugglers are the source of the issue.
You to show that these strikes stop the source. That has not been shown.
Hold on. This is a first step. Right. So my position, as I said before, is that not only should we bomb these guys, we should bomb any drug smugglers that we find out in the fucking ocean. Any planes we find smuggling drugs, bomb them too. People walking over the border with drugs in the back, shoot them in the head. Like all the drug dealers in the U.S., they should be imprisoned and executed. Like we need to go hard on this thing. We need to work with Mexico to militarily target the cartel and treat them like we treated ISIS. Like we need to go much harder on this issue.
Because the way we treat.
Hold on, let him finish.
The alternative is it gets worse, and we have hundreds of thousands of Americans dying every fucking year. Not just Americans, people all over the fucking world. And this is just people dying. Not the fucking families ruined, careers ruined, lives destroyed because we're too soft on this fucking issue. We just want to defend the fucking drug dealers. Fuck that.
So, yeah, because the way we handled ISIS totally stopped Middle Eastern terrorist groups from forming and being prevalent in the Middle East.
It stopped ISIS.
It totally had a ton of solvency, guys. It did it. Well, we needed.
How
we were
powerful
harsh
is ISIS?
enough.
Hold on. How much of the Middle East does ISIS hold on to today?
Once again, you get rid of ISIS, another terror group forms. There's still terrorist organizations in the Middle East. You get rid of the cartel, another cartel forms. You haven't shown, just because you use more force.
Hold on. I don't know how much you know about the Middle East, right? I don't know how much you know about the Middle East, but ISIS was not just.
I'm Iraqi, so I mean.
Okay, then you should know this. Then this is great. You should know this, then.
I do want to get more people in, so I'll let Doobie respond, and I want to get Mooncake and Ehonda in. Go ahead.
Okay, because ISIS was not just another terrorist group. It's not like the Taliban or Al Qaeda or Hezbollah or something, right? These are groups that are like political. They have like ideological motivations that don't involve just wiping everybody out and making a caliphate, right? These are like very specific regional groups that have the regional motivations and interests. ISIS was an aggressive, violent group that went around genociding people. These groups are not comparable to ISIS, right? So yes, wiping out ISIS in the way that we did was effective. Which is why ISIS does not control a massive chunk of the Middle East like it did before. Right? And I agree. Yeah. Any instability, you're going to leave open the space for malicious to form. And I think a lot of that is our fault. I think we did this intentionally, to be honest with you. But I don't think that needs to be the case in Mexico. I think in Mexico, we can handle it differently. And we don't need to have this massive vacuum.
Okay,
so
I do.
The Taliban have
respond real quick, but we gotta get other people in, man. We do.
The Taliban control an entire country. ISIS shifted to Africa. There are still Middle Eastern terror groups. So once again, you get rid of ISIS, another group comes in. If you use extreme force against the cartels, there is no evidence, and you haven't presented any evidence that this would prevent any other individuals in the region from filling that power vacuum that would form afterwards. Once again, you keep saying if we use more force, but you haven't given me any solvency for that claim.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. When I say use more force, like what do you think? Yeah. Okay, so let's just imagine this. So we have the Zetas, right, in Mexico. Very violent organization, skins people alive, puts their fucking faces on footballs and kicks them around to children. Very disgusting organization. Let's say we target the Zetas, treat it like we treated ISIS, bomb them, drone strike them, kill their leaders, send the fucking military in there to shoot these guys on the head. Eventually, right, it's very unhealthy to be a Zetas member. Right, so that the organization falls apart. You take apart the infrastructure. You track down all the networks. And I agree, the Zetas are no longer there. But if you don't leave the vacuum, right? If the government doesn't just pull out and allow all these other organizations to come in and fill that gap, I don't know why you're speaking as if another one just like appeared there.
Mooncake will be back in a second.
Her internet
cut out, target. Hopefully, we'll get her back here in a second. But then
because you would also target these other organizations at the same time.
Just real quick, Doobie, we gotta get Ehonda in too.
Sure.
Right.
So eventually, the goal is that if you're targeting all these organizations at the same time, then yeah, there is no gap to fill, right? There's no vacuum to fill because you've not only have you torn down the source of the drugs, their drug manufacturing operations, but you've destroyed their infrastructure for smuggling the drugs. You've killed the leaders. You've killed everybody in the support network. And they no longer have the ability to operate at the level they are right now.
Okay,
they might eventually get there again, but if you put in place protections and strong consequences, fucking draconian consequences for anybody that wants to go in that direction, I think you can stop it.
But we gotta give it to Ehonda, and then we're gonna let Mooncake respond, and then we'll get back into it. Ehonda, go ahead, please.
1 sec.
Article 8 of Additional Protocol 1977, which refers to customary international law, defines shipwrecked as persons who are in peril at sea or in otherwise waters as a result of misfortune afflicting them or the vessel or aircraft carrying them, and who refrain from any act of hostility. Now,
Okay,
I
does
would
the U.S.
argue,
sign on to
again,
that
that,
international
well,
law?
hold on. I would argue that the act of hostility that they're continuing to have is, let's say, I mean, they're in the water with the drugs still. Like another
Yeah.
boat could come by and pick them
So-
up. It's the same thing as if a line of cannon is being strafed by an A-10 Warthog and they put the white flag up. That doesn't count as surrender, right?
Okay.
Because they haven't given themselves up to a force that can take them off of the battlefield and make them non-combat effective, which is part of surrender.
Just real
If
quick,
they
just
are still in the water and they can be picked up, I would argue that that's still an act of hostility and
Okay.
that they should be bombed again.
okay, just so I can get clarification on your stance here. You're saying that because the drugs are existing in the water, that counts as them still being an active combatant.
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah.
Okay.
The same as if
Mooncake,
they were
insane.
in the
go
water with
ahead.
machine
I want to
guns.
give it to
It's
Mooncake.
something that's going
Okay.
to kill American citizens, and unless we get rid of it all
Because-
the way, another boat
Because
could come by and
those
pick
drug
people up and
smugglers will
shoot those
grab
trucks
it
up
and they
bring
will
it into
swim
America.
to the Florida coast. They will swim all the way to the Florida coast with those drugs in hand
That's
to
not
give
what
it
I
to some
argued
poor
at all.
child.
That's not even what I argued. So you can
Well, it's
strawman
not
it.
clear. No,
what
it's not
I said.
strawman because you're saying it's still a weapon. They
That's not what I
still can
said, so
use
it
that
is a
weapon
strawman.
violently when they're floating in a shipwreck. That's
It's not a shipwreck
insane.
because it wasn't
It
misfortune.
got bombed. How is that not a shipwreck? Okay,
Because they
okay.
got
Even
bombed.
if we don't use additional protocol 1, we can look at 18 U.S. Code 2441,
So you
which
knew
is a
about
different
that. You've
definition.
just been lying
We
the
can-
whole time. Got it.
I haven't
Okay.
been lying.
So
I
you're
haven't been lying the whole time because
big actor
yeah.
making
So protocol
bullshit
1,
arguments.
1977,
Hold on.
Article
Exactly.
41.
Hold on, both of you, stop.
Uh,
Both of you.
uh.
Both of you. Both of you. Mooncake, it's her turn.
I'm sorry, Mooncake.
Oh no, it's okay. Don't worry at all. Sorry, before I cut out there, did you hear anything I said, or was it just like
Nope.
I disappeared? No?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
you were
shit,
agreeing
okay.
with me.
No, I definitely wasn't. No, what I was saying before, and I feel like, is it Ehonda? I feel like you are ignoring when I keep bringing up the Geneva Convention. That like it clearly states what it is I'm trying to say about like someone being subdued. Basically, they are no immediate threat, so therefore you have to give them a chance. You can't just bomb them a second time when they're not posing an actual threat to life. And at that point, all the drugs are gone if the ship is blown up. So there's no drugs for them to even bring over. But what I was trying to reference before is if we just bomb everything, like these cartels have a huge amount of money behind them. I'm talking about like billions of dollars we're discussing. If one person who's at the top of the chain gets killed today, they're going to have a replacement tomorrow. That's just how the cartels work. So this idea that they won't just keep shipping people and they don't care if they're killed, the cartel will find a way to get drugs anywhere on this planet. The best way to go about it is instead of bombing those individuals, you take them, you interrogate them, you interview them to get more information about the cartels to see if you can take it down top to bottom. But if you just bomb them, they're just going to get more people. So that's why I think it's just childish to say just bomb, bomb, bomb. That is not going to solve the issue. When has war completely solved all of our issues?
How would you
We'd be
solve
having
the
more
issue with the
peace by now.
cartels in Mexico?
With the cartels in Mexico?
Yeah, because to put them into perspective, 'cause I feel like a lot of people don't really understand how powerful they are within Mexico,
I
right?
think, unfortunately,
like there was
you have to
a
find a
there was
way
a
to disarm
situation.
them.
Well, yeah. So there was a situation, just to kind of put it into perspective. I think a few years ago, where the police in Mexico had, I think it was actually the Mexican military, had the son of a cartel boss, right? One of the like the
Yeah,
leader
El
of one of these
Chapo's son.
cartels. Yeah, and this cartel came in with fucking pickup trucks with machine guns on the back,
Yep.
missile launchers, all kinds of shit, flooded the town and threatened to kill everybody in the town if they didn't release them. And the military had to back down and let them go. Like that's what we're talking about here. These are essentially terrorist groups, right? That they've just centered themselves around drug smuggling because that's how they make their fucking money, or one of the ways to make their money, right? They also make it in sex trafficking and whatnot too. So I think they should be treated like terrorist groups, and I don't think you can just disarm them. I don't think they're going to show up one day, turn over other weapons and their RPGs and shit, and be like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. I think you do need to treat them like an enemy force and kill them.
You can treat them in enemy force, but you have to find a way to break them down strategically. And when I say that, when I talk about disarming, is going after the head. So going after their money. And if we attack addiction first, if we get people less addicted to drugs, guess what? That's less money coming into the cartels. If you deal with the addiction first, people won't be needing for drugs. They won't be trying to get it, right? What you'd have to go after as well is these big pharmaceutical companies where we have the issues with opioids. Because a lot of times people are getting addicted to those first, and then they look for those street drugs, which those cartels cartels will bring in. So I think there are ways to go about it, though it's obviously not perfect and it will take time, but just bombing isn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think. Go ahead.
real quick, I would like to point out that 70% of the weapons going into Mexico come from the United States. That's according to ATF data. So ultimately, if that's a whole different debate. I don't want to talk about gun policy. You might not think I'm actually really big into guns, but I don't want to talk about gun policy. But what I am saying is that if we can starve them out of these weapons, then they can't do those types of things. I'd like to point out 4 Hellfire missiles pay for a recovery center, as we talked about before. I gave you the math on that. So ultimately, yes, if you starve out where they're getting their money, and if you make it harder for them to get access to those weapons, they won't have those weapons, and it's easier to deal with them. But bombing the fuck out of them has not worked. It never will work, because ultimately all it does is result in a power vacuum. It leads to instability in the country. When instability takes power in a country, individuals become poorer. When they become poorer, they're more likely to join armed groups. I believe in Africa, 25% of people who joined armed groups stated it was because they had to do so for the money. Ultimately,
that is already the case in Mexico, right? So we're spending all this money to target these groups in the Middle East when we have a group, country right under us, our closest fucking neighbor, that is dealing with something much worse.
So the answer to Mexico's instability is to bomb the fuck out of them,
hold
everybody. That's
no,
a great
hold
way
on,
to
not
do it.
Mexico.
You gotta
out of the
let
cartels. So
them
treat them
go.
like an enemy military, enemy forces within the country that have seized sections of the country. I mean, I have family in Mexico. Right, I have 2 family members that have been killed by the cartel, not because they did anything, because they were the fucking at a car dealership and they happened to be there while the cartel showed up in military uniforms, took everybody, and then a couple weeks later, my family member showed up in the back of a burned car, right, with a bunch of
And
other
it's
people.
70% chance that was an
So hold
American
on.
gun.
So hold on.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
I totally get that. However, what I'm telling you is
Once
that,
you finish, though, I got super chats to go through. So finish.
Yeah, no, I'll be quick. That these cartels, they go into parts of Mexico, especially rural parts of Mexico, and they will just take over the police department. Say, hey, actually, you answer to us now, and if you don't want that, go home. If you're here tomorrow and you don't answer to us, we're going to kill you and your family. They regularly assassinate mayors and politicians all over the fucking country. Like you cannot treat these people like they're just a fucking gang. Right? These are very serious, powerful organizations. And what you're talking about is what we've been doing so far, which is treating them with kid gloves, allowing the rot to fester, allowing them to get more powerful and to dig in their fucking tentacles all over into the politics of the country, is more than they already have, by the way. And it's not going to fix anything. You need to treat these people with violence, with force, or they're just going to get stronger.
Okay.
And I think that's been demonstrated in our current policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get through these super chats, and then we're gonna give it to Ehonda, and that's the order we're gonna go in. $5 from What the Fuck Over 2 says, why do you think the UK stopped their intelligence sharing? Thank you for $5. $5 from Alexander Rin. Sorry, what does America have to do with Europe in this case? Or are you saying that we can kill those people on behalf of Europe? I do think that's what he was saying.
Yes.
$5 from Alexander Rin. Doobie, when should you become the king of bad faith? Is Venezuela shooting airplanes out of the sky in their own country or in someone else's?
I don't see how that's relevant.
$5 from Deej Nuts, but he retracted his message. I don't know what he said. $20 from Testicle Johnson. This is a Mott and Bailey. We're not talking about people sworn to destroy America. We're talking about strikes done with no evidence presented, no war declared on a country, where drugs travel through, not produced. War crime. Thank you for the $20. $5 from Deej Nuts to say, ignore my last super chat. Don't worry, I did. It's irrelevant. Section 5.9.4 clarifies that orders to combat is not automatic if they flee the boat. Thank you for the $5. $5 from Alishness says, El Chapo's family was so powerful, in fact, that Trump granted his entire family asylum into the country. He just lets scary drug guys to walk in. Okay. Honda, go ahead.
It's funny to me you guys keep talking about like the Geneva Convention and all that stuff, but the laws of war are intended for a civilized enemy who engages in reciprocity for those laws. Terrorists engage in a regular unvetted chemical warfare against the American people at this point, right? And the United States isn't violating laws of war when they target them. The appropriate consequences for violating the laws of war is reprisal. Reprisal justifies even machine gunning survivors in the water. That's according to Andrew Branca.
Who's
Hold
Andrew
on.
Branca? I don't
Just
give a fuck
real
who Andrew
quick.
Branca is.
Machine gunning survivors in the water? Of what? In what circumstance?
Andrew Branca.
Who's
Okay,
Andrew Branca?
So yeah, I know
He
who
was
Andrew Branca
he was
is.
on the show a couple weeks ago on this show actually talking to
Destiny and
about the
Destiny
subject.
and Soy Pill.
I'm,
But
s- I'm so glad he is the orbiter of what is true and just in the world, and that we can just quote Andrew Branca. I'd like to point out that by your ideas of chemical warfare, when the U.S. used Agent Orange in Vietnam, the Vietnamese were totally justified to do war crimes against American soldiers because they were using chemical weapons. So it's totally justified to use war crimes
No, you're
against
missing
American
the whole
soldiers.
point, dude. You're missing the
No,
whole point.
you gave a definition. I'm playing within
hold
that
on,
definition.
just real quick. To be fair to Ehonda, he did the
Is it a
what he said
military,
was
like uniformed
without
military
uniform,
that
ununiformed. Yeah.
chain of command? The answer is yes. If it's a group of terrorists trying to bring drugs into our country,
Yeah.
the answer is no. It's very clear.
So somebody who's Horisty combat is a person. There's nothing about being armed. That's ICR customary rule 47, ICRC. Not only that, but US code 2441 says different. So once again, you can find these like specific cherry pick definitions, but a majority of international precedent disagrees with you because that is how we determine what is viable under international law is off of the precedent of what has been done in the past. And in the past, that has never been the case. So if you want to make a change to that, if you want to make a change to the status quo understanding of these definitions, then you need to give the logic behind them and not just say that's how it is. And that this random guy says that's how it is. That's not how international law has worked. It's not how it will never ever work. Once again, I've given you multiple pieces of legislation that say differently. You can't just say nuh-uh and then we move on.
So just to jump in there, something that really concerns me that I don't think, well, no, we're kind of hitting on it, is like the lack of transparency. Because this is now being classified information, the public doesn't really know if we can't really verify that these are drug boats, that these individuals are committing these crimes. And I think that's the scary part. Let's just say it's a boat of refugees, but they're able to say, oh, you know what, we think they're drug smugglers, and they blow them up. To us, it may not matter because it's not affecting us, but it's going to terrorize these countries. And I think it's creating instability in these countries that are already a little unstable. And if that happens, I think the issues that we're going to face in the long term, Canada, America, other countries, even Europe, if you want to bring it up, will do more harm. And I think that's why we have to go about this in a very strategic manner. There is no transparency. You cannot just bomb people and give no information to the public. I don't even think Congress is allowed to get involved. You can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think Congress has a lack of information about what's actually happening in these waters. And I think that's very dangerous.
Just a quick correction there. Congress is allowed to get involved. That is something that is within their remit to do. They have to usually give a use of authorized military force or an authorized use of military force. I forget the order of the acronym there, but they are, to be clear, launching investigations into this. Now, whether or
they're
not
currently
that will
launching
do anything,
investigations.
I don't know. But go ahead, Doobie, please.
So what if it's the case that the information that they're getting, right, to say that these are drug boats or whatever, is coming from a source within the cartel, and if they were to reveal the information or how they're getting the information, it might put that source at risk. Like, so I agree with you that it's very difficult to trust, especially this government, right? Any government, any administration, but especially this one, right? Because I think I said earlier, I fucking hate Trump, right? I think he's fucking terrible. I think his administration's terrible. However, if it's the case that if they were to release this information, that these people would be put at risk, I mean, how do we, let's just say they were to claim that, right? How do we know if that's true or not? Like, I think at some point, you need to be able to trust representatives, right? And I don't think it makes sense to just demand that they release all the information they have.
Innocent until proven guilty, the onus is on the government to prove that they're guilty.
Yeah, they're proving
They
it
haven't done
themselves,
so.
right? So they have their
No.
internal checks and balances, right? If they go through this process to determine, hey, yeah, we believe this is a drug smuggling vessel, that's typically enough, right? So like I don't expect them to release all their information.
So, Doobie, if they claim that your house is a drug smuggling vessel and they bomb your house, are they justified? Because they did, they proved it to themselves.
Obviously, I don't think so. But again, it seems very unlikely that they would do that, first off. But I agree with this government, it's a possibility, right? With any American government, it's a possibility. Yeah. However, given that what we're talking about is clandestine information, potentially taken from sources within these cartels that is talking to the government, snitching for the government, it might put people at risk. And because we know how these cartels handle snitches, right? They will literally skin them alive or beat their families to death with baseball bats in front of them and then skin them alive. Like I can understand why they wouldn't want to just put all that information out there.
But why wouldn't they just arrest some of them if they had all this proof? Like if they were able to prove it to the public specifically, wouldn't the public be more like I guess with Trump or supportive of Trump if he could prove that these are 100% drug boats? Look, we just arrested these individuals who we can 100% prove were bringing drugs into the country. Wouldn't that support his campaign or what he's doing even more? So that's why I kind of criticize what he's doing because like I
Okay.
think there are ways to go about this.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So if he, rather than blow up the boats with Hellfire missiles, if they just shot the guys in the head and then went afterwards to the boat, got the boat and found that it showed you, hey, this is full of drugs. Right? Look at all this cocaine and fentanyl or whatever. Would you be opposed to that? Would you still be in favor?
I would
so
still
would
be
you still be
opposed to it.
Yeah,
I believe
this
in
is a
due
crazy.
process.
This is a crazy dichotomy to propose when we literally have a designated group of individuals who are trained to shoot out boat engines by the Coast Guard.
Yeah, but I don't want to give these
do
guys
so-
the
do so
benefit
with
of like
minimal-
prosecution or jail or any of
You
this.
don't want to
I
give them
think
the
we owe them
benefit
that.
of prosecution?
No,
We
I
are
don't think we
the
owe them
country
this.
of law and order. We are the country of prosecuting individuals. Well, that is the entire point of
No,
the legal
these
system
are not
of innocent
citizens.
until proven
They
guilty.
don't.
This is-
We don't owe them this at all.
listen,
We don't owe
yes,
them
we
money.
do.
We don't owe them
The
we don't owe them the chance to come
Yeah.
onto our shores and
So-
speak in front of our courts. We don't owe them any of this. They're enemies, so we
Yeah.
treat them like enemies.
So the goal of America is to be a moral shining light for the world to show that we
died a
give
long time ago.
credit.
You're living in a fantasy.
Okay, so we shouldn't strive towards those goals because the U.S. did a bunch of bad
not real.
stuff. So let's just do
I
bad
understand this
stuff.
is the narrative
Once again-
that we're all
once again,
sold as
this
children, but you
argument
got to
that you're
grow up.
making-
It's not
this
real.
argument-
Let
this
Ace
argument-
finish. Ace, go ahead, please. Ace.
This argument that you're making is the argument of dictators and authoritarian governments who do not give credit to the value of human life. We as Americans give value to human life, which is why we have innocent
we
until
don't.
proven guilty for all persons. We should
See,
strive
that's the
towards it,
problem is
Doobie.
we do
Just
give value
because
to human life.
just because things are bad, just because the
100,000
U.S.
people that die in this country every single year is way more valuable than a couple of narco terrorists on a boat bringing drugs over to this country. 100%,
Ehonda,
10 out of 10 times, 100 out of 100 times. I don't give one shit.
the number one cause of
can I-
death
can
in the
I just-
United States. Wait, can I finish? The number one cause of death
Of
in the
course.
United States is heart disease. Should we shoot Ronald McDonald in the back of the head? It's fucking
Yeah, we
insane.
should.
It's
We actually should.
okay.
Hold on.
So, anyways,
Yeah, just so I'm clear, just are you saying that we should declare people who push fast food on the American public, we should treat them as I don't know, fast food terrorists?
Well, maybe we should clean up the way that our government gives poor people food and don't give them such
Sure,
poison.
with Hellfire
While you're
missiles?
on food stamps, you
With
shouldn't be able
Hellfire
to buy Lucky
missiles,
Charms
yeah.
and Mountain Dew.
guys, we're gonna start
Okay.
bombing all McDonald's. I
But
think that's the next piece of
yeah,
policy.
sorry. I know I interrupted you, right? But
What I'm saying is that the argument of
finish up
authoritarian
quickly.
I understand that you're a little bit of a doomer, Doobie, where you're like, oh, it's all bad.
I'm not a
America's
doomer.
evil. We can't do anything right. We should be striving to be better. And when we have the technology and the capabilities to stop these individuals, to give them a trial, we show that to the world that this is how they are meant to handle these situations.
No,
but when
that's
we decide
ridiculous.
to bomb them without evidence, then we show other countries in the world it's okay to bomb people without evidence, which leads to war crimes. It leads to terrible
That's not
things on the
true. It's
global
not without
stage.
evidence.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
To be clear, they do
Without
have evidence. It's
confirmation.
just
Without
it's just hold on. Yeah, well,
Without
we're not
confirmation.
owed all the secrets. We're not owed to the ability to see how the sausage is made all the time, right? Sometimes things are secrets for a reason. Right?
When the government
However-
accuses somebody of being a criminal, they ought to prove they are a criminal. We have the right to know
they
whether
have
or not
internally.
they didn't prove it to anybody. The jury of your peers.
They proved it to
whole
themselves.
Point is that they're right to
They
prove
have
it to us.
intelligence.
We are a government
They
of the people,
determine whether or not they
for the
trust
people,
intelligence, and then they take
by
action.
the people. We are a government of the people,
Hold
for
on.
the people, by the
Yeah,
people.
and our representatives who are in these positions of power
who aren't
have
seeing the
determined
data,
that they
it's being hidden
trust
from Congress.
that they trust
It's
this
being hidden
intelligence.
from Congress.
Have determined that they
Hegseth was
trust this
appointed.
intelligence, and because they trust this intelligence, they're taking action based on the intelligence.
Hegseth
That's it.
was
It's not that.
appointed.
It's not much more
Congress isn't
complicated.
even seeing. It's not being proven to Congress. Our representatives isn't being shown it. So that's not true.
Again,
let's give it. Hold on, let's
Where
give it
they
to
can take action,
Ehonda,
like-
then let's give it to Mooncake, and then we'll go from there.
I'm just saying, like, you're saying it has to be proven, it has to be shown in a court of law or something. Like, where does it show? Where does that written that in order for our military to take an action against an adversary who's bringing drugs and killing 100,000 people in this country every single year, and I'll keep nailing that fucking point.
Yeah.
Where does it say that they have to be? Well, it has to be shown that it has to be proven
So
that they have
the
to be
United
like
States,
the Senate
yeah,
has to be informed and given all the evidence before they can do anything.
yeah.
Where does it say that? I'm not sure that
Someone
it says
dies
that
of
anywhere.
cardiovascular disease every 33 seconds. So you know what? If the
Oh, you
United
didn't
States
answer my
military
question at all.
bombs,
God.
wait,
Okay.
let me get to it. If
Completely
they bomb the
disingenuous
McDonald's in
argument.
town,
Thank
they
you.
don't have to prove to me why they bombed that McDonald's because they had the right to do it. They proved it to themselves. Once again, you're claiming that these individuals that they are bombing are leading to those deaths. I'm
If
asking you,
the McDonald's
the
in
government
Mexico
has
that was bringing drugs in from a tunnel under
the
McDonald's,
McDonald's. What?
and they
Okay.
had evidence that it was in Mexico and
Yeah.
that they had drugs coming under the
Yeah.
under the Mexican border, then they could
Yeah.
bomb it.
Yeah.
If it's a McDonald's
Can
in
I-
America
Okay.
that has U.S. citizens who are working inside of it, then they'd have to go to court.
Let's-
That's
So you
the
said
difference.
you said
let's get hold on, please, please. Let's give it to
the white
Ace.
people get courts.
We gotta we gotta let Ace finish his point. We gotta let Ace finish his
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
then Mooncake
So-
has to go. Go ahead.
If they're an American citizen, they get the protections. Once again, this is not the ideals of America. The ideals of America is that you as a human being, not as an American citizen, you as a human being have innate values and rights. You are a God, you have God-given rights. All people all people have God-given rights, not just American citizens. These are the ideals that we were founded on, and these
Do
are the
American
ideals that
laws
we will
apply
continue
to
strive for.
American citizens or the world?
They apply to anybody who comes into American territory. So once again-
Yeah, which is why you should kill them before they get here.
Okay, first off, we don't have to kill them because I've given you the alternative time and time again, and you just say, "Well, no, we don't like that."
We'll give it to
You just
Mooncake.
want-
I want to hear
That's
from
not just
Mooncake.
what I'm saying. I've given you reasons I don't like that. But I'm
Why?
curious.
Why don't you? Why do you like it?
Hold on. Did you know that in 2019, SEAL Team 6 killed a boat of like a North Korean fishermen off the coast of North Korea? Okay, and we didn't. That's happened in 2019. We didn't know about this until like September when the New York Times did like a whole expose on it, right? And the reason we didn't know about it is this was high level, top secret classified shit. So many people, even within our government, did not know about this. We're not able to look into this, right? So I think this is one of many cases. Well, yeah, sometimes we don't get to know everything for at least up front. Maybe in a few years, things are less sensitive. Less people are in danger put in danger by this information.
That North Korean incident is different because we didn't go and kill them because they were on a boat. We killed them because we thought they were North Korean military coming to investigate.
No, that's not
true. And it is true. You think we just shot them for fun? You think we just went over there and they popped up out of the water and shot them? No, they shot them because they didn't want to be discovered. They didn't want to be discovered.
Hold on, they didn't want to be discovered. I don't think they necessarily thought these were military men. But even if they were, that would mean that our SEAL Team 6 went on this covert mission and killed a bunch of North Korean military members who are still people, by the way, because they just happened to be in the fucking area.
I do.
They thought that it would they reveal the operation, so they killed them.
Okay.
I was like, oh,
I never justified that. That was also wrong. I don't know.
No, I understand, but I'm saying this was kept secret for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's bad that they kept it secret.
I don't think it's bad.
What do you want me to say?
It's
Why
really
is that
reasonable.
bad?
Okay,
it's reasonable.
You guys are looping. Stop. You guys are looping.
You guys are
looping. I want to give it to Mooncake. Mooncake, you got to throw bows, Mooncake. You got to speak up.
I'm sorry. I just kind of
don't be sorry. You're fine.
I'm just like listening. No, there is one thing I wanted to hit on, and I'm glad I actually remembered. Is that, and to my knowledge, once again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an American. Trump is not a fan of the government in Venezuela. If I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Maduro, I think is how you pronounce it. He already wants a regime change, and I guess what I'm concerned about is the intentions behind what he's choosing to do, because we've all kind of acknowledged a lot of these drugs aren't just coming from Venezuela. The majority is coming from Mexico and China and relatively other places besides Venezuela. But Venezuela is kind of a foothold when it comes to that anti-American propaganda that's pushed by Iran and Russia and China, for example. And Trump knows that, which is why Trump is also not a fan of Venezuela or their socialist ideologies. Not only that, they just stole an oil tank reserve, which I think we should be also kind of noting, because Venezuela has one of the largest oil reserves on this planet. So what I'm looking at is, I would call it modern day colonization, if we're just being honest. I think Trump is trying to overthrow this government. He wants to go in there. He wants resources. And I think this is kind of like a geopolitical grab at this point. And I think this is why he's choosing to label these boats as terrorists, and he's committing all these what I would consider war crimes, because it makes it easier for him to attack this country, which is why closing down their airspace also makes sense. So I think if we look at the intentions behind what they're doing, it's pretty questionable and controversial. And I don't know. I just don't think that should be ignored. Is basically what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. Cool. Any
I
response?
actually agree with that. I think the crisis, right? The kind of narrative built around, oh God, we got to go to Venezuela. We need the fucking Navy out there right now. I think a lot of this is just propaganda meant to pull America's attention from inconvenient things like the Epstein shit, but also to push this, I think I agree, colonial kind of attitude that Trump has, and they do want the resources.
I think
Go
this
ahead,
is just like
Ehonda,
a
please.
random side thing, but the average Venezuelan under Maduro lost, I think it was 10 pounds average because of malnutrition, because they don't have the food. 7.7 million Venezuelans came to the United States in the past decade because of that, right? Like it's a huge crisis. It's caused by the corruption and frankly like the narco terrorism ties that they have to these terrorist groups or whatever you want to call them, right? And that's who the government of Venezuela is. And I mean, does Trump want to get rid of them? Yeah. Is there a good reason? Seems like it.
And I'm not saying that their president or their government is perfect in Venezuela. That's not what I'm trying to hint at. But I think that we've seen it in the past where countries try to go in and basically do nation building. They try to go in, they try to fix it, and they try to overthrow governments, and it relatively never works out. I mean, for example, I'll give you Haiti. I can't even think of another country off the top of my head, but yeah, Haiti I think is a good example of that as well. Where I think we try to go in, we try to overthrow these governments, and like it ends up being worse for our countries. And I think that if you're doing this in Venezuela, I just don't think it's America's place to overthrow that government. And I think Trump is doing it for oil reasons. And I think that's, I don't know. I
Well,
don't
can
think
I-
modern day colonialism is a
Yeah,
good
can I
idea.
ask a question actually of Ehonda? Do you support the U.S. going in to boots on, like, say, because Trump has mentioned this, that he hasn't ruled out boots on the ground. Would you support boots on the ground in Venezuela to overthrow the government?
No, I wouldn't. But I think
Okay.
Trump saying I wouldn't rule out boots on the ground is a Trumpism method of getting, it's a persuasion method. It's not,
Okay.
it's like an empty threat. And you don't know it's empty unless you call it. And I don't think anyone's going to call it because it might not be empty. And that's the thing about Trump.
Well,
Was
we are
everybody against-
we are interdicting oil vessels from Venezuela. That
and I
did
didn't
happen
expect that.
yesterday.
And
so-
and I don't know quite what to think about that yet. I haven't really
Fair
thought
enough.
about it hard enough to have an opinion one way or another.
No, that's
I don't
I
really
just-
like
I
it,
just-
I don't think. But I think that there's probably a bunch of extenuating circumstances or information that we don't have yet about that. So
possible. I'm going to read some more super chats, and then I have a question for the panel that perhaps can get us down a bit of a different track, I hope. But let me read these things, and we will get there. Okay, so Mr. Far from Jordan for $5. Frogside thinks that Barbary pirates, England were the good sides versus Thomas Jefferson, and that Harrison Ford is a bad guy in clear and present
The
danger.
fuck?
Thank you for the $5.
I think he's talking about the first.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. I just think he's retarded.
That's
Okay.
fair. $5 from look. No one who gives me money is that retarded. They all deserve a little $5 worth of respect. $5. Speaking of respect, $5 from Old School to say Andrew Branca has been a practicing attorney for decades, is highly respected, and has worked as a consultant to the FBI. Thank you for the $5.
How many
Fuck.
lawyers are sitting in jail?
$5 from
yeah.
Alishness. Not sure if it's been mentioned, but Trump is sourcing justification for bombing these boats from an executive order. He's invented targets. Thank you for the $5. $5 from Deej Nuts to say Doobie. Can you say ribbit?
Fuck you.
Okay.
Wait, Doobie, I have something I want to say that's really important. All right, I promise you. Venezuela is number 11, right, for unique frog species. They have 365 unique frog species. They make up 5% of the frog population.
Beautiful. $2 from
Should've
Testicle
gone-
Johnson. $2 from Testicle Johnson to say Andrew Branca is a piss baby. Well, thank you. He has fans and haters in my chat, apparently. $10 from Malik to say the guy in the blue hat's a lawyer. Are you a lawyer, Ehonda?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Are we sure? He seems to believe killing civilians with no justification isn't a war crime. If they're terrorists, what terror organization are they part of? What gang?
I mean, they would be from whatever the name of that cartel is. They've deemed them a terrorist organization because they're bringing drugs into our country. I'm not the one who did that. The government is.
Trying
The
to,
Trump
I
administration
forgot
is, and if
And
there
then
wasn't
finally-
justification for it, I don't think they'd be allowed to do it.
And then finally, $5 from Alexander Rin to say, please stop saying we have to try them in court. Enemy combatants don't have a right to trial. Thank you for the
That's true.
$5.
Finally, he says something correct.
Okay,
Can I say something?
quickly.
kind of-
Maybe it'll get us on a better track, but go ahead.
Well, I feel like I need to say this, okay? Because I think this idea that the U.S. is like, we're the freedom and liberty and human rights people is ridiculous. It's childish. I think we need to let it go. I agree. It's a beautiful ideal. I wish it could be this. I think the reality is we're not this, and we haven't been for a very long time. I think something that I think about a lot, actually, because I grew up thinking this too. Right? I think I used to think of America as the shining city on the hill, right, from that Ronald Reagan speech. And I thought we were that, and we're the world police. We're going to protect the planet. We're going to make everybody happy. Blah 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 blah. I saw this clip years ago. Not a clip. It was like an interview years ago with Madeleine Albright, right, discussing the U.S. sanctions on Iraq that were going on for I forget how long over. I think their war with I forget who it was. One of these Middle Eastern shitholes. Okay. And there's a report that came out that said 500,000 children, Iraqi children, had died as a result of the sanctions, right?
It was
Not just, I think it was like 1.5 million Iraqis total, but 500,000 specifically children had died as a result of the sanctions. And her response was that she thinks it's worth it. So, and so this attitude has persisted within the U.S. for a very long time. This is how we've actually behaved across the world for a very long time. I think we need to stop kidding ourselves and to think that, we know we're the people who care about this kind of shit, because we don't. I think the reality is we don't. I think we should, but we don't. And I think we need to stop pretending that we do, because all it does is give politicians a convenient out when bad shit's happening.
So I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
As my mother's from Bosnia, my dad's from Baghdad, Iraq, right? It's where they came from. I was born here. But I'd like to say that just because the U.S. has messed up in the past doesn't mean that we shouldn't have it as an objective and goal that we pursue in the modern age. It doesn't mean that our values have changed. Do we live up to the American promise all of the time? No, I'm not going to claim. Of course I'm not going to claim that. But we have formed treaties. We have helped decide these laws. We have helped come up with these ideals, and we will continue to work forward towards it. The difference between you and me, Doobie, is I see every action, such as these boat bombings, as pushing us further away from those goals, when instead we can do things that push us towards those goals, those same policies that are just as effective.
Yeah, I think my disagreement is that I think that that dream is dead currently, right? I think I agree with you that it should be revived, but I don't think this is the way to do it. I don't think being soft on drug dealers who are poisoning our people is a way to do that. I think there are cases where you do need to be harsh, you need to be strong, and I think this is one of those cases.
Once again,
is there a limit on that? Is there a limit on that, Doobie? Like,
what do you mean?
What would you do if you could not just strike the terrorists, right? Say we're bombing the drug boats, but it's not working. They're not deterred enough. Would you go after their kids? No. So there are lines that you wouldn't do, even if it would stop it. You could demonstrate, like by targeting their families, their children, you could stop all drug shipments across the U.S. border from Venezuela.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, so there are lines. I
wouldn't target innocents.
What about you, Ehonda? Same question. Are there lines to what you'd be willing to do in order to stop drugs from coming into this country from foreign? Yeah,
I think like anything, you got to do a cost-benefit analysis and see where that line is. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but I know that there is a line. Certainly, like I guess I would put it in terms of lives, right? Like, which one is causing more lives to be lost? Allowing these drugs to come in, or bombing, in this case, these boats? And I think that the calculus is pretty clear in that case. So I would be on that side of the line there. When it comes to killing kids, I don't see how that would help. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, that's how the cartels keep people in line, right?
If
they want you to obey, they just kill your kid, right? They do that. It works.
I guess I would draw the line.
Yeah, hold on. So there's potential that it will work, right? Because you can make people terrified that their kids are going to be shot. But I think this is a case where I agree with Ace that there are certain lines that we should not cross, right? Yeah. So in the case of the drug smugglers, right, in situations where there are drug smugglers, I agree. There are probably instances where they're innocent and we kill them because we think they're drug smugglers. I think that's bad. But in that situation, you have adults who knowingly put themselves into this position to take this action and do this thing, understanding that it's not something that we're going to allow. They do it anyway for profit. So yeah, I think they've they made the decision to put themselves in that danger.
Once again, I agree that we need to stop the flow of drugs. I've never said that we shouldn't, right? What I'm saying is that there is no link between the claim that bombing these boats results in a reduction in the amount of drugs coming into the country. What does reduce the amount of drugs going into countries is making it so there's not a buyer base, so dealing with addiction. If you want to deal with the militarization of the cartels, 70% of their weapons come from America. So we should deal with that. These are things that we can deal internally that don't have to do with bombing random boats that haven't been proven to be drug smugglers. Once again, we can take all of these actions, we can solve these same issues with different pieces of policy. It's not an all or nothing on double tapping these boats, and that's why double tapping these boats was the wrong decision, is because we can deal with these problems elsewhere.
Okay, I want Mooncake's trying to get in, so Mooncake, and you're having technical difficulties. Everything okay over in Canada land? Oh my goodness, your audio is off.
Audio.
Oh no.
Okay, is it on?
Yes,
Is it on
you
now?
got to turn your mic
okay.
on. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't know why it keeps freezing and then cutting out, and I'm just like, then I disappear for like 5 minutes. No, I was just gonna agree with him actually and say that I think there are better ways. For example, forensic accounting, sanctions. If we hit them like economically, I think that you can really dismantle these cartels. And he spoke already to the gun issues going into Mexico, for example, being the big one. I think that's where you would have to go first. And I'm gonna reiterate what I've already said. I just think the bombing is childish. I don't think bombing, you can bomb for 20 years. I think the cartel is still going to send boats or send people underground or through fucking jungles to get drugs into America. And if you don't deal with that addiction first, you get people not addicted to opioids that lead them to the streets and onto drugs, then this is just going to be
Why do you think drug smuggling should be illegal? Like why should fentanyl be illegal then? I mean, you're essentially saying, hey, we can't stop this because they just find a way around it.
Well,
it's one of the many steps to a multifaceted solution. You need to make drug smuggling illegal in the United States, along with dealing with addiction. I would say the dealing with addiction is the larger portion that reduces the drug rates.
I actually think drug users shouldn't even be criminalized for using drugs, for example.
That's crazy.
So, no, I don't think it's crazy at all, because at the end of the day, jailing someone for doing drugs is never going to stop them from doing drugs. You're just filling up the prison system and wasting taxpayers' money. If you invested in actual addiction recovery, you could get these people off of drugs and therefore fix your society. But doing this, arresting them, bombing people,
maybe we can find common ground here, because I semi-agree with you for the first offense, right? So if we catch somebody with drugs and they're an addict, what would you say to forcing them to turn over their drug dealer? Right. And if they do that, then they get put into some mandatory rehab program, right, that the government pays for.
I actually agree with a mandatory rehab program. I believe it should be
why not turning
like
over the drug dealer?
Turning over the drug dealer, I mean, like, they can, but I think it's more complicated because a lot of times, like, they're afraid of snitching because they don't want to get hurt.
I don't care.
Things, but yeah, why not?
But they chose to support this industry that is poisoning people within their community. That's poisoning people within their community. Yeah. So given that they've done this, right, they've again put themselves into a position that they're feeding this terrible industry that's destroying people's lives. So I think that they have a responsibility, an obligation to turn over the person they got this from.
So given that logic,
but it's hard to force people to do that. Sorry,
no, it's not. Just say, hey, either you do this, you're going to prison for 10 years.
Yeah, given that logic, though, that if you're saying that the people who are caught with drugs doing the drugs are supporting that industry, should we not hold drug addicts guilty for supporting narco-terrorism?
Yeah, I just said that. Yeah, so for the first offense,
Ehonda, do you agree with that?
Hold on, not kill them.
I would agree with
Hold on, I just told you, for the first offense, you force them to turn over their drug dealer and put them into mandatory rehab program. Second offense, I would put them in prison for a while. Third offense, I'd say life in prison. Fuck you. You just get to be labor for the government for the rest of your life.
Why not just shoot them in the head? Why not just shoot the drug users in the head?
Because they're more profitable if you have them working for the government.
Hold on, you're all talking at once. Ehonda, then Ace. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think it's a good thought to put people in programs, but I will say that if you're not willing to put in the work into a program to stop doing the drugs that you're doing, it's not going to work. Like, if people aren't ready to quit doing drugs, forcing them into a drug program, 99% of the time, they're just going to be right out back on the streets as soon as they can. It's only when they get to that point where they choose that they want to stop that they can actually, I mean, and there are exceptions to every rule, but that is the rule. That unless they're the one who wants to stop, generally speaking, it's not going to stop.
I guess another Ace, go ahead. But then I have another question for the
So
panel.
I'd like to point out this idea that like drug addicts are evil because they do drugs is an outdated ideology and is kind of evil, if I'm being honest. It's honestly what we see here is that drug addiction is a disease. Drug addiction, when treated like a disease, has better outcomes than when it's treated
So is
like a
pedophilia.
crime. That's
So
a
is child
crazy
molestation,
take.
right? So is rape. Right? Plenty of people
What?
get addicted to the
Come
feeling of power
on.
that comes from raping people. It doesn't fucking
That's a
matter.
doobie quote of
I
all
think,
time.
I think the reality is
Pedophilia is a
these
disease.
things do
You
damage to
can't control
people,
it.
and when they do damage
So-
to people, I don't care if it's
yeah,
because of an
Doobie,
addiction or a mental
Doobie,
health issue.
Can I
They're
finish?
doing damage to the
Come
community, and they should be punished for
Doobie,
it.
could I finish? So yeah, I would say pedophilia is not a disease, but I guess we'll disagree on that one. We can have a debate about pedophilia another time. But if you really want to
What's a
defend
mental health
pedophiles,
issue? Why
that's
are you
on
punishing
you.
people that have mental
Anyways,
health
Hold on,
anyways,
just Drew. I'm
can I-
gonna nix the pedophilia debate.
Yeah.
We
Let
can do
me-
that
let me-
another day.
Continue.
The problem
Anyways,
with the
it's
drug
the-
addicts, though, is that usually
Yeah.
the drug's not the only crime that they commit, right? It's like
Yeah.
they're on drugs, they get in a car accident, they kill a family. They're on drugs, they rob the neighbor's house. They're on drugs, they fucking make a bad decision and rape a woman, or you know what I mean? Like it's not just the drugs; it's the things that are ancillary to the drugs.
But the difference.
And it's the fact that they're feeding an industry that does all those things to God knows how many people.
Could
Can
I
ask a
could I
question?
finish?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So once again, every study across any country has shown that when you treat it like a disease, when you do rehab instead of prison, you have a lower rate of recidivism. American prisons have record high levels of recidivism, meaning somebody who goes in for a low-level drug offense comes out addicted to harder drugs because we don't do a good job of keeping drugs out of prisons. And once again, instead of those prisons, if they were in a rehab program, they'd come out with a lower level of recidivism. There'd be less people buying drugs. Less people buying drugs means less money for the cartel. Less money for the cartel means they can buy less guns, which means they can hurt less innocent people. The link chain is very, very simple to follow. Ultimately, what we see here is you have some dream of putting people in prison for their entire life, or putting people in prison and it'll solve all the problems. And you can say that, and you can have these ideals, but no study has backed that up. You can make that claim, but once again, we need evidence for it, not just
I
that
don't
you
think
think
that you're
it
going to
works.
get any argument about
You
the
could just
prison
look to
industrial
Duterte
complex
and
in
the
this
massive
country doing
decrease.
bullshit and not working. But when it comes to us
Yeah.
bombing a boat and you saying that it doesn't reduce the amount of drugs in this country, I think that's a pipe dream. I think 100% bombing a boat with drugs on it that's destined to the United
Did you
States.
see the
at
drugs on the
least
boat?
Let
reduces the amount
Ehonda
of
finish.
drugs
Go
that
ahead,
were on that
Ehonda.
boat. And then I think, and I know you disagreed with this, but I think that provides a very strong deterrent for other people who would be potential boat drug runners.
Yeah. So if the military has a suspicion because of intelligence they have, because we can all agree that the military intelligence agency is not the most solid. They make mistakes all the time. I think to say that they won't make mistakes would be insane. If they say with 60% certainty that you, Ehonda, you have drugs in your house, do they have the right to bomb your house and kill you and your family?
No, because I'm an American citizen.
Why? What's the distinction? If they think you're a drug dealer, you guys
American
were just saying
citizens
that
have the rights and protections of American laws. They can't just be bombed. We have the
Yeah.
right. We have the right to trial. We have innocent till proven guilty.
So your
That applies to American citizens. That does not apply to narco terrorists on drug boats in open water. I don't care what you say.
Your stance is that if your house was on Mexican soil, the United States military would have every right to bomb you because they were 60% sure that
No,
you had
because I'm
drugs.
still an American citizen. If there was
you
a
weren't an American citizen, they could
who
kill
was
you.
on Mexican soil who was bringing drugs into America, and they
How
had
sure do they have
intelligence
to be?
and decided that was a person
Yeah,
that
how
was doing
sure?
that,
How
then they
sure
have
do they have to
absolutely-
be? If
I mean,
there's,
do you
there's
want me to answer the question, or do you want to just talk over me after you
because
ask?
you're saying like nothing. Once again, if you are a Mexican citizen in Mexico, how sure does the American government have to be that you have drugs in your house to justify killing you?
I don't know. They have to be sure
That's
enough.
insane.
They have to
They
be
have to be
sure
sure
enough
enough by
that
their
when
own
they
standards.
do it, that there's not going to be an international incident that they can't prove. I think there's a cost-benefit analysis that they have to do when they're
They
making
haven't
that
proven
decision.
it. But they
I mean, the
haven't
cartels
proven
don't
it.
play a lot of tunnels
They
all
don't.
across
They don't.
Mexico.
That's
so.
where you keep getting it wrong. There's no. They don't have. They don't have to prove anything.
So they can bomb you and not prove it. So they can bomb you
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter.
They
They
could.
don't have to prove it.
But
Yeah,
here's my
well,
That's
thing.
insane.
I mean, there
That's
was,
see. Here's the
Obama-
difference.
who was the
I don't
guy
want to
that
live.
killed
Yeah,
his
fuck
American-
Obama. I don't want to live in an America where we can do that. You do.
You do. You currently do, and you have since you've been alive.
American-
I'm sorry to break it to you.
What?
Yes,
grown
I
up
do.
in
I don't
America.
want
Hold
to
on,
live
hold
in
on,
an
stop,
America that
stop,
does that.
stop,
to Canada
stop,
or something.
stop, please, all of you.
I'll change America.
Okay, all stay. Hey, Ehonda, and then Mooncake. Go.
Well, I was just saying that there was an American citizen who the Obama administration targeted in Yemen. I can't remember the guy's name. Killed him and his 15-year-old son while they were like at a party or something, and knew that they were there and killed them anyway, right? And like, if you ask people who are right leaning, they would say that was a war crime by the Obama administration. But I mean, nothing
Charge
ever
him.
happens, so it's fine.
Charge him. Charge him.
Just to be clear, I don't think it's wrong for, and I think I said this at the beginning, for the American government to do what they believe is necessary in order to stop what maybe people would consider a great evil entering their country. But there has to be necessity with limits, right? Because one thing I think we have to consider is that there could be retaliation. What stops these from cartels now from going after American citizens who are traveling overseas? And I think this is something that we need to take very seriously. What stops terrorist attacks, specifically on America itself?
I hope they
And I
do.
think that you hope they do.
Well,
So,
let
so
Mooncake
here's
finish. Mooncake, finish
I
your
It already
guess
point.
happens
my
too. Like that's why
my
when you go to like
Just
Yucatan,
real quick, let
Let's-
Mooncake.
let Mooncake
Hold on,
finish.
hold on. Let Mooncake finish her
what
point.
I'm saying
Mooncake, please.
this could become a level that we haven't really seen before. And I think that once you guys are starting, or at least I should say the American government is putting American lives at risk with the decisions that they are making. And we can say all day that, oh, well, we can get them. What if we don't know which country they're coming from? Are we going to bomb every single country? Are we going to bomb every single boat? Like, who are you going to go to war with? Are you going to go to war with everybody? And I just don't think these questions are being asked or taken seriously. People have basically given the Trump administration the green light to do whatever he wants and call it terrorism. Uh, and when it's done on your shores, I just don't think people will be saying the same things. That's just, I guess, the point I'm getting at. But it seems like
100,000
Americans are
die of
quite okay
fentanyl
with it.
overdose in this country every year. How is that not terrorism?
Sorry, say it again.
100,000 people die of drug overdose in this country every
Well,
single year.
a
These
lot of that came from
United
opioid
States.
addictions
How is that
from,
not terrorism?
but that came from
millions
pharmaceutical companies
millions
as
die
well.
of heart disease. Is Ronald McDonald a terrorist?
No, but one thing I do want to address is that these pharmaceutical companies who are pushing opioids, if you guys remember, some guys, construction workers, were going in for back pain. They gave them a shit ton of opioids and they got heavily addicted to them. And then they started doing heroin in the streets, meth. And that came from pharmaceutical
Yeah,
companies
they should be
who
in
got
prison
these
too.
people addicted. But what I'm saying is that they're not going after them. They're going after
But we
the
should.
cartels, which they should
We can
go
do
after
both.
them. I'm not disagreeing with that, but they aren't going after these pharmaceutical companies. This is really a power grab. That's what the Venezuelan stuff is. That is just a power grab. And I think if you're looking at it, you can relatively see it. We've all kind of agreed here that Trump is trying to do a regime change. And I really don't think this is just about drugs. Trump doesn't give a fuck that much about drugs. It's about the money. Let's just call
I
a
agree with
spade a
that.
spade.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, let's get a couple super
I
chats in
disagree with
here.
I don't think it's about the money. It's about the drugs. It's about the 100,000 people who
Can
are
I-
dying
real
in this
quick-
country every
No,
year.
let Ehonda finish and let me do super chats,
Yeah.
and then you can go. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, the Trib one for $5 says, "We are pro-war as a country. We are pro-aggression as a country, but we are not pro-murder. We're not pro-illegality. We have not always been this way." Thank you for $5. $5 from Alexander Wren says, "Doobie, it's not my fault. Every argument you've made is draped in nihilistic sophistry. Not worth even calling you out, as you won't even respond honestly." Thank you for the $5. $5 finally from Trib1 to say, "No, Obama actually sought counsel for that drone strike. Stop lying. Trump is doing it illegally. Hell, Trump is very anti-law and constitution." Thank you for the $5. Okay.
You think Trump made this decision
I-
without?
can I?
Ehonda,
say
then
something?
Doobie, and then I have a question. But
Well, I mean, he just said that Obama took counsel before he made that drone strike. Do you think that Hegseth or Trump didn't talk to people and get opinions from lawyers and people who have
well, the
knowledge?
difference would be that Obama had an authorized use of military force, and Trump does not. And that's
The other thing,
difference.
just because
from
Obama
Congress.
does something doesn't mean it's legal for Trump to do so. Like, let's make that clear. Obama can commit war crimes. Trump can commit war crimes. There's no connection here about whether or not this was a war crime.
Okay. Doobie, you had something to say.
Yeah. So, given that my arguments are nihilistic sophistry, I'd like to extend the invitation for Alexander to come on to any panel anywhere. Wick, I'd appreciate to have you here, and actually make the arguments against me. Right. So, if they're so easy to counter and they're so ridiculous, just come on and talk to me not in person, frog to person, or frog to farm animal, whatever the fuck you want. We can hash it out. Okay. You can tell me how stupid I am in real time.
Okay,
Think
DM
hiding
me if
in
that's
chat
what you want to
and
do.
rambling and like a bitch. It's not helpful to anybody.
Well, I like when he gives me money to make arguments. Okay.
I'll give you money that day to make up for it. Okay.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay. we have reports from the Coast Guard, okay, that show that of the ships that we interdict for running drugs or being suspected of running drugs, about a quarter of them do not have any drugs. Are we comfortable with this rate of error when we are blowing up these boats? A 25% rate of error. So in other
No.
words, 1 out of 4 boats that we are blowing up do not have drugs. Are we comfortable with that?
Oh, no, is that true?
25%
Or is that
claim, but
That's
even if
the
it
rant.
is
That was a
25%,
congressional report from
fair enough.
interdictions
Even if it is
of the Coast
25%,
Guard.
I'm okay with it.
So you're okay
What,
with
what,
25%?
what percent are you no longer okay with? If it was 50, would you be okay with it?
Probably about 50. Yeah.
So you're saying 50-50, the US gets to bomb people because
No, he's
they
saying no,
take
he's not
drugs.
okay with that.
Oh.
He's saying 25
he?
he is okay, 50%
No,
he
yeah.
isn't okay.
If it's 50-50, I'm not okay with it.
Okay, what is the line then? Is it 40? Like I just want to narrow down where we're
I don't know. Somewhere in there.
this is riveting. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I get
I mean,
yeah.
you're asking me to come up with a hypothetical percentage
Yeah,
number
because
that isn't
because
in
because
reality, and I don't have an answer for you, and then you're upset that
25%
you
of
have
those
an answer?
strikes,
Like, that's ridiculous,
25% of
dude.
yeah, 25% of those strikes don't kill narco terrorists, as you say. They kill innocent people. So once again, right? We've shown that you can pay for addiction centers with 2 to 4 of these missiles, but instead you would wish that one of these 4 missiles go to kill random innocent people. And I would say that is profoundly un-American because the ideals of America is that we
No, it's
all
not.
have dignity. Yes, it is because the ideals of America is that we all have value of human beings.
Okay, the
We have
American
innate
ideals are not American.
God-given
We're
rights.
far from that America.
Human beings
Okay,
die
we're
every
nowhere
Sure,
near-
we're far from it. So you
But what's
we're far
American?
from
What's
the
American?
American
What's
ideals.
American is killing these people and calling it collateral damage. Okay, that's what American is.
We're far
No,
from
Well,
so
you're
we
all
accept-
talking at once. You're all talking at once. Ace,
We're
finish
far
your
from the
point. Ace,
Constitution.
finish your
We're far
point.
from the Constitution. Let's scrap it. Let's just start killing
Constitution
people. Let's
says nothing
let's
about
have
this,
some
right? So hold on.
concentration camps.
What we accept
We're
right
far
now.
from American values.
Hold on, we call it a positive
both
thing
arguments
when the
against it.
civilian to militant casualty rate is like 2 to 1, right? So if it's 4 to 1, right, or 3 to 1, like that's actually beneficial. That's actually a good thing, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So like we call it collateral damage in every other case.
Who were
Yeah.
who were citizens of other countries in bombing raids. How
Yeah.
acceptable was that then?
It wasn't acceptable. I don't think killing in any situation
Yeah.
where you have a 25% chance of killing civilians,
Everyone
you
accepted
shouldn't take it. I
That's
don't know.
exactly what happened. Everyone accepted
That's
it.
great that happened. We're not debating whether or not it happens. We're debating whether or not it is
And you're
justified.
fucking ridiculous, dude.
These are 2 different conversations. Is it justified or does it happen? Are 2 different questions. We're asking whether or not it's morally justifiable.
Okay.
We were saying it's not morally justifiable.
My issue is more that you called it un-American when it's exactly what America's been doing for fucking decades. It is not un-American. Eventually, it becomes American to do these things. We need to own that.
Yep. So we should just own it, and we should just start killing civilians because Americans have done it before.
We do
so
this. Let's start. We should do. We already do.
That's your stance.
We call
We
it
should
collateral
just start killing
damage.
civilians.
Call collateral damage if it's less than 5 civilians for every 6 terrorists.
It wasn't
it's a good day
it's
for us.
25%. 25%. So
Yeah.
once again,
Okay. So 1 out of 4, still positive to us. That's actually much better.
That's
Much better than
positive to
other.
us.
And to
Hold
be
on,
clear,
it's actually
hold on,
much better
just to
than
be
other
clear,
collateral damage rates we've had.
these aren't just the boats that are being striked. It includes any interdiction. So I just want to be clear on the numbers here. So anytime
then,
we stop
okay.
a boat,
It's not
we-
even all the boats that. Okay, that makes it even better.
Okay, well, then
well, we don't know
the. Even better.
this
No,
is
no.
the thing. We don't know the percentage on the only the strikes because they don't
Yeah.
separate it that way. But anyway,
So once again, what I'd point out is that the American values that we have, just because we don't live to them in the current status quo, doesn't mean we should abandon them and become barbarous authoritarian regimes that kill civilians. Instead, we should work towards policy like the examples that I gave where we can disable boats in the ocean. I gave you the examples of how many boats they're able to stop in one run, and we can use those policies to enforce American values and the values that we should be going towards. Just because America has done bad things doesn't mean we should continue to do bad things. It's a dumb argument to say so.
Yeah, so I think my issue again is that you keep speaking as if these are our values, but they're not. They're what people have written in a book somewhere that you believe.
They're my
should be
values,
their
and
values.
we should
That's cool.
we should
I'm
push the
happy for you.
American
I'm happy
government.
for you. The
we
reality
should
is that
push the
American values are what I
government to
said.
do this.
American values are if you can kill 3 terrorists for every 1 civilian, that's a good day for us, right? So that's actually much better than our civilian
Are
death
those
ratios
values
in
justified?
many conflicts, right?
Yeah.
In many conflicts. Apparently so because we've been doing this for fucking decades. So I agree with you.
Because we do it, it's
I agree with you.
justified. So if,
We should
so if
probably
they do,
hold on. I agree with
so-
you. Hold
yeah.
on. No, listen
Yeah.
for a second. So I agree with you. We should probably try to move away from this. However, I think this is a situation in which we need to be strong. We need to use force. We need to be violent to stop this thing. I think that the soft way you speak about like handling this issue it's been demonstrated not to work. We've been soft on this. We've made drugs illegal in the United States. We made fucking marijuana illegal to try to. And when we did this, we were told that it would undermine the cartels. The cartels would collapse because we're going to make marijuana illegal. This went to some other fucking drug. Now there's campaigns to make those drugs legal too within the U.S. They tried this in fucking was it Nicaragua? They decriminalized drugs, and do they still have a drug problem? Yes, they fucking do have a drug problem. I think that you guys this like soft view of like how to handle this issue, and it's been demonstrated time and time again to not only to fail, but to make the situation worse, to destroy lives, and you just cling to it because it makes you feel good. I think eventually you need to accept the reality that yes, sometimes we do need to kill people. Sometimes when we need to kill people, we might kill people that don't deserve to die, unfortunately. But in this case, it is worth the risk.
So I want to go down your link chain real quick. The link chain was that we're justified because we've been doing it for a long time. Therefore, anything in the United States, that is what you said. You said because we're doing it. I asked, is it justified? No. You said because we're doing it. So that is exactly what you said. Okay, America does it, therefore we can do it. That's kind of that's
not what I said either. What I'm telling you is that when you keep saying that it's un-American or supposed to have values or whatever,
is it justified?
Yes, it's justified, but not because it's it's not justified because we've been doing it. It's justified because the risks outweigh the rewards here, right? So if the risk is that yes, we're going to kill one, let's accept the 3-to-1 ratio, right? So we're going to blow up one civilian vote for every 3 drug smuggling boats. That's a pretty good ratio. That those drug smuggling boats represent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans that are potentially. No, listen to me for a second. Represent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans who are not going to die as a result of these drugs coming to the country. So I think the risk outweighs the rewards there.
We have
keeping your mouth shut while other people talk, and it's fucking annoying.
Who, me?
Yes, I'm actually okay with it. I like the passion. I like the passion.
Anyways, Hitron is a system that we've had since 2016,
and it hasn't fucking worked.
Because it doesn't have enough helicopters. Let's give the money that is going to
we need to spend more money on this thing that doesn't fucking work.
Why does it not work? They stopped drugs.
We need to put more of these fucking drug smugglers into jail and pay for them for the rest of their fucking lives. What are you saying?
Doobie, can I finish? Hitron stops boats. In one run, they stopped 13 boats. They stopped 83 vessels in 2016 with like 8 helicopters. If we give them more helicopters...
The entire year of 2016.
With 8 helicopters, Doobie. If we gave them more helicopters, there's more helicopters out there, stop more boats. It's very simple logic.
How much did that impact the flow of drugs in 2016?
By $2.2 billion, 81 tons of cocaine, 8 helicopters.
Again, how much did that impact it? Meaning, how much drugs did they miss that still came to the country through that route?
If we give them more helicopters, they miss less drugs. I don't know how else to break this down to you. That the system works because they're trained to do so. You need to give them more money so they can have coverage to do that. If we're talking about stopping drugs that way, we can do that.
Just a comparison. Since September, the Trump administration has conducted 22 strikes, at least, on 23 boats. So, if they stopped, what was it, 83 in the entire year?
Yeah.
It's been 23 in about a month for the.
And we don't need to pay for the fucking prosecution. We don't need to have these guys in our fucking jails taking up space.
First off, we don't. Oftentimes, we can extradite them. We can send them other places. We don't have to keep them in our prison. We can extradite them.
Yeah, where they eventually get out of jail, then go right back into drug smuggling, and
then
we catch them fucking a few years later.
And it's still more cost effective.
No, fuck that. I think you need the scare factor. You need to kill these people so they don't do it again.
Doobie, we just gave a $400 million contract for like 2,000 missiles. You keep saying this
if it's a big deal. We give these fucking military. Hold on. We give these military arms manufacturers billions of dollars every year. Tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars every year. This is not
effective. It's not effective. It's not working. Once again, you're saying this isn't cost effective.
They've only been doing this for a few months now. You don't know how effective it is.
And not only that, but I'd like to point out that for every dollar we invest, where is it? We have it right here. For every dollar that we invest, according to the NIH, we get a $12 return for drug rehab. So ultimately, what I'm saying is we can deal with this. What do you mean cringe? Drug rehab works objectively.
That's what I mean.
How is it stupid?
That's fine.
Because again, we can invest all this money into drug rehab. Invest all this money into drug rehab. Hold on. Yeah. The issue is, I mean, there are multiple issues. One of the big issues is that because we don't, the current system does not force these people to stay in rehab, so they eventually just walk the fuck out, and they get on drugs anyway, and it doesn't matter, right? However, if we don't do anything about the flow of drugs, it doesn't matter how many people we put in rehab because there's just more drugs out there for the other people out there. So we need more and more rehab centers. So eventually,
Okay.
hold on, and there'll be
If
more
you let
people
her
born
ramble.
every fucking year
Yeah.
who will think, oh, cool, there's fentanyl in my fucking school. I'm gonna go try that out, and they overdose and they fucking die. Happens all the fucking time.
Invest in
So
Narcan, invest in all of this.
eventually, you need to do something about the people producing the fentanyl,
Yeah.
producing the cocaine. You
Take
need to
away their
target them
market so they
directly.
don't have the money to do so.
No,
Okay.
that's
Take away their market.
ridiculous.
Why
When
is
has
that
that worked
ridiculous?
ever? When has that worked ever?
We're
When is
So
when
the
did
same thing about
prohibition-
marijuana, and hold on. So the same shit about marijuana, and there's still illegal marijuana being sold in the U.S.
Yeah, we're
It
circling
doesn't
the
fucking
drain.
work.
Okay. I do want to give because we were running up on time. We don't have a lot of time left, and you guys are talkers, so we're gonna give a little extra time for closings today. £3. I think those are pound. No, those are euros. Sorry, €3 from Chill House Mixes to say life, liberty, and prosperity. It's greater than liberty and prosperity. So thank you for the. I think that's a greater sign. Thank you for the €2.50. I don't even know how much money that actually is.
Yeah, ironic that's coming from a European, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Fucking speech laws.
But this has been a very passionate debate, and there's a lot of questions still that I have on this specific topic, but we are running on time. So I'm going to give each of these lovely individuals a chance to shout themselves out, give closing thoughts and closing statements. And yeah, before I do, I just want to let you guys know that next week we have some great stuff coming up. On Sunday night, I'm going to be hosting a debate between Gnostic Informant and Eucharist on religion, and that should be fun. So tune in Sunday night for that. On I think Wednesday, we're going to be having a debate panel on sex work with Erudite, with Gabi Wasabi, with Stardust, and we're looking for a couple more people for that, so it should be fun. If you're super pro sex work, get in touch with me, and we can get this done. And then finally on Friday, I'm going to be hosting a debate between Kung Fu Joe and Owlishness on feminism, so tune in for that. With that said, we're going to start with Mooncake, and we're going to give Ace the last word, and we're just going to go around. Mooncake, close us out.
Okay. So that was fun. Sorry I was late again and I kept cutting out. Kind of what I said earlier is that I think this is all regarding a regime change. I think this is about oil, this is about money. I really think that they are indiscriminately targeting boats and they aren't even sure if every boat does have drugs on it. As you said, they did it to 23 boats, take 25% of that. I think that's about like 6 or 7 boats that you cannot verify. And that is the reality. And it's obviously not public information. I don't think they're clear about what's happening. I think America's putting a really large target on its back. And I guess we'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, I think you guys are kind of screwed.
Where can people find you, Mooncake?
Oh, on YouTube and on Twitch, Mooncake EXO.
Check her out, gang. Thanks for being here. Sorry about your tech issues.
No,
Ehonda, go ahead.
Ehonda 42,000 on YouTube and Twitter. My final thought on the subject has to do with the seditious six, as they've been called, talking about suddenly all these like war crimes that people are doing at the same time that they're claiming that war crimes are happening, and they're trying, I believe, to get troops to question the orders that they're going to be given in the future about things that haven't even happened yet, so that they have questions about and it's going to weaken our military. And I think it's a bad thing that's happening, and it's tangentially related to what's happening with this discussion that we're having, but I think it is related. But anyway, yeah, check me out on YouTube, and thanks for having me.
No problem. I got a link to all these individuals in my YouTube descriptions. Click on their link. They've given their time to spend time with us tonight. You can take a moment to give them a follow or a sub or something. Yeah, but appreciate you being here. Doobie, go ahead.
Can you skip me for a second, please?
Okay.
Please.
Ace?
Yeah. I guess the only shout outs I want to do, I don't have a social media following, but the SCSU, I'm blanking on the name, SCSU Speech and Debate TikTok. That's the only TikTok I want to shout out. And also I want to give a shout out to my friend Riley, another member of our team who helped me prepare. With that, I want to say that on this topic, America has not always acted as it should. We haven't always lived up to our ideals and goals, but I think that our objective should be to try to get to those ideals and goals. When we look at the money that's being spent to bomb these types of boats, when we look at these situations, ultimately with 25% failure rate, what has a higher success rate is going into these helicopters, like investing in these helicopters that can shoot down these boats, can shoot out their engines, can capture them, we can get more information, then we can stop the root cause. Here on American soil, it's a multifaceted solution. 2 to 4 of those missiles can buy a recovery center, can fund the start of a recovery center. And ultimately what I see is that these contracts that we're spending are not having the solvency of reducing drug deaths in America. And that's because bombing things don't work. It's why bombing McDonald's won't get rid of heart disease. What will is making sure that American people know that they can get help for those issues and they're not treated as criminals for a disease that they have, which addiction centers, I believe, can do, and can do so for a much more cost-effective solution than bombing boats we're not sure have drugs on them.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. I guess go check out that TikTok if you want to see him debate live. Really appreciate you, and thanks for coming on. And finally, I guess last but certainly not least, Doobie.
Hi. Okay. So I'm Doobie. I run the Politics Server on Discord, discord.gg/politics. You can find me there. I think that to kind of wrap up what I was saying, I think these drug smugglers and cartels aren't just an issue. They're not just a problem. They're a hostile force, right? And I think that they aren't just shipping, like, we say drugs, but really what they're shipping into our country is poison. It's an assembly line of corpses. They're grinding into our people for profit. I think that they know exactly what they're doing. They're stacking bodies. They're buying power within their own countries with our dead, our people. And any group that builds its wealth on overdoses and orphan children is not a stakeholder. It's not someone we should negotiate with. It's an enemy. And I think that enemies like that should not be accommodated. They shouldn't be treated with kid gloves. They need to be hunted down, dismantled, and destroyed. Right? We should leave nothing left. So I think there's the weakness in these other positions, right, is the reason we have this issue. And it's the reason we have 100,000 or more dead Americans every year. It's the reason we have children in fucking middle school, elementary school, dying of fentanyl overdoses. I think that if you want that to stop, you need to stop being weak. So I think we need to support the bombing of these drug smugglers and cartels.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. Go check out his server. It's always active. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, politics server.
It is the biggest, by the way.
The biggest
politics server in this world.
There's always people arguing all sorts of things in there. Check it out, gang. If you've enjoyed this content, if you've liked what we do here, you can support the channel by hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and yeah, give me a follow on Twitch as well. Really appreciate that. Final $5 from Cameraman, getting it right under the buzzer here, to say, I noticed the panel is assuming the 25% false positive rate for boarding versus the current operation. The burden to authorize aborting is much lower. Thank you for that $5. Okay, with that, we're gonna let you guys go. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.